Lunch included?
Lunch.
And one, you did have lunch catered in, did you not?
I certified for it.
Yeah, good one.
I didn't want to disappoint y'all, so I do have some changes to the agenda here. Suggest. What I'd like to do is some of these I'm not sure if we can take action or not. I'm hopeful that they're insignificant enough that we can. But since we don't take action today anyway, what I'm going to do is suggest that we put this under action items, and then David can tell us yea or nay. We can discuss it anyway. You can discuss. And you can tell us whether it's something we could actually act on tomorrow. So what I would like to do, and I'll make this in the form of a motion, is directly under action items. It's the first few items there. There are some budget amendments that we need to discuss, and I'd like to add that. We have a request from the State Patrol.
The budget amendments are this year.
For this year's, for 19.
Not doing it.
No, this is for 19. And we have a request from the State Patrol for some equipment that they're asking us to donate that we can discuss. So I would make a motion that we add those two items directly under action items. Any seconds at all?
Oh, you're not. I'll wait for more.
No, I'm done. All right, all in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. Which takes us into the unfinished business, updates from Parks and Rec.
We're into the All-Stars of basketball right now. This past weekend we had 12-year-old boys and girls and a 10-year-old boy and girls competed in Dawsonville, and 3 out of 5 teams actually played in the championship ball games. It was pretty good. The 12-year-old boys coached by Patrick McVeigh and Bobby Teague ended up winning their championship. This weekend we'll be hosting the boys and girls District 5 Class C basketball tournament. That will be taking place at Gilmer Middle School. Then on March 1st and 2nd we'll be hosting the 12U Class C GRPA State Tournament in basketball, which is Gilmer's never done that before. The last state tournament we held was in 2009, and that was a 10-year-old girls softball. So it's been 10 years since we held a state tournament, plus we've never held a basketball tournament. That'll take place at Gilmer High School. Baseball and softball registration are taking place at the end of the month. I've been working on a program which is called NAES, and it's the National Alliance for Youth Sports. I was telling you the other day, we're about to go mandatory with that for all our head coaches. It's a certified coaching. It's a really good program that we have since the 90s. And I think it's going to help our coaches a whole lot. We do a lot of drills, a lot of do's and don'ts with the kids. So it's going to be a positive experience.
And this will result in certification for them.
Yes, correct. And it's all sport specific too, so if they coach basketball, then it'll be for basketball, coach basketball, it'll be for basketball. The little Bobby playground, we've got it completed with all the roof mulch and everything, so it's up in the background again, turned out real nice. And the distance signage has been installed along the walking trails too, so what we've done is we've actually mounted those distance signage down to the trail, so everybody's see exactly how we're making it future.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Last month we talked about the tennis courts. Any movement on that?
I have to ask.
Yesterday, they got washed away.
The movement on that is soon.
I'm waiting any time now.
Any day.
It's in the mail.
Yeah.
We're fast.
Well, Kevin told them that we were basically kind of done with them, and they did say, well, we're essentially there, and we do anticipate that it will be awarded, and probably in about a week or so, about 3 weeks ago.
And I didn't send an email, I didn't send an email yesterday, and she told me that she's anticipating an answer meeting, so.
I'll believe it. Mike?
Not a whole lot has changed since last month. It's still the same up there. It's very wet. Very wet. As you can see there, it was a good month considering that. The majority of our money right now is the memberships that are coming in. We had 38 going in January on all those employees, but that's still, if I look back to last year, that was, we were just a couple $1,000 from where we were. So with the amount of water that's fell, I'll take that. One thing I did want to mention was our TV ad. We ran that up here last year, and I'm going to go to the first couple, 3 months. We're going to try to go to Alpharetta and Roswell. It wasn't really available last year at that time. It was late in the year, and I didn't want to do it. So this year we're going to try to, in April, we're going to try to go on down there and draw those people up here. As far as the gate and the well, the gate should be done on Thursday. Power, everything's running. All they have to do is get their box hooked up and then the scanners in. I would think tomorrow they should have that done and completely done. Well, I was going to tell you that I had to get a permit, and Lloyd just walked in here and gave it to me. So I've got a second quote. I should have it by the end of the week, and we'll just have to decide who we want to go with. But now I've got to call the EPA and get them out there. They have to approve our site with this right here. Appreciate that, Lloyd. But it should be cut dry. It should go pretty quick. I've got a chipper up there in Kevin's dump truck at the moment. He's nice enough to let me use his truck. I got it rent free. The guys, we got it one day last week, and we're just trying to get everything done there. Of course, I've got the winter spraying done, and that was a pass there. And I got the ball fields done for Kevin up there. So the next thing will be the pre-emerging water. So we'll just get them out there winter king.
Appreciate it, Mike. Airport and public works.
Let me start with the airport. First of all, we've got a number of things going on at the airport. One is land acquisition that I made the commissioners aware of. We have 3 tracts of land that we are negotiating on right now. We have one of those 3 tracts that the property owner has agreed to. The county attorney has developed a real estate contract that we're still waiting for the FAA to give their blessing on that. And the other 2 tracts, one is 24.5 acres and the other is 1.7 acres. I have met with both of those property owners. An offer letter has gone to them. They are willing to sell at the offered price. So we're just now trying to get through the bureaucratic process to get to the point where we can actually execute sales agreements on the 3 pieces of property. In addition to that, along with those 3 acquisitions, we have a runway safety project, phase 3, that is currently being advertised. It's appearing in the paper now. We have copies of the plans and specifications on display here. Dallas, if you and Carlene would like to look at them, they're laying on that small conference table out there. We are scheduled to have a pre-bid meeting on February the 27th, and then the bid opening is scheduled for March the 7th. The disadvantaged business enterprise plan that I reported to you last month that we had submitted to the FAA and Georgia DOT, it has now been approved, so we are certified again for another 4 years as a disadvantaged business contract sponsor. So, any questions on the airport? Okay, roads and bridges. Ridgeway Church Road, we met with Amicalola Electric last week out there, and they are scheduled to start as soon as weather permits relocation of 15 power poles and connection of new services and things like that. And as soon as that's done, then we'll be ready to start moving dirt in earnest. And that is widening the road, new ditches, new shoulders, and everything. But we can't do that until those power poles have been moved and the new line strung. So,
Jim, did they have to do any tree work?
yes, there was a number of trees, Dallas, that were too close to the power line that we couldn't do, and they had to cut a number of those, and we actually paid them in order for them to do that.
Do they have to also clean that up, or is that part of our job?
Well, they're supposed to clean it up, but Dallas, we're going to be there anyway, and we try to cooperate with Amicalola, and so we'll probably wind up cleaning all of this stuff.
Just wanted to know what's clear.
Yeah. The other thing that I do want to make you aware of, if you read the paper, and I have been in conversation with GDOT a couple of times on the 382 extension. All of that land has now been acquired, and GDOT is in the process of finalizing their plans. They are scheduled to go to bid, I believe it is in either June or July. So a contract will be awarded shortly after that, and probably see construction sometime in the fall. You know, everything got, the publicity has been on the roundabout, but the roundabout is such a small part of that overall project, but I understand that. But that's a significant thing for us. Just 20 years that it's taken to get that project to the point to where it's going to be realized. The FEMA project, the Old Bucktown Road Slide, you have a copy of a letter there that Chairman Parrish sent to Tara Toyota on the 25th of January, requesting the change in the scope of work, and along with that, a geology report, as well as the roadway relocation concept was provided to them. The last conversation that I had last week was that this request has now moved into FEMA and is being reviewed by them. So we should know something pretty quickly on the change in the scope of that project. The one thing that Ms. Toyota did say is that there would be no chance of additional money, that the money would remain as the project worksheet showed. But even at that, if we can get the change in the scope, then the money that has been approved will be able to utilize toward the relocation of the road. So things are moving there finally.
Charlie, thank you for taking that action and putting that together. It may not happen, but I appreciate your effort. Thank you, really.
I think it'll happen. I think we'll get the
Good,
approval of the scope of work. Now, the money is going to be that's going to be a different thing. But no, I think based on the conversations that I've had, I think the scope of work that will happen. The 2019 LMIG grant, Sandy received that January the 15th, $684,000. That is a grant that we do every year that will be utilized along with the 2018 paving. We'll be doing that 2018 and 2019 paving this year. So that money is in hand. Any questions about roads? Okay, solid waste, the EPD amnesty and right-of-way tire grants have now been approved. We were able to secure copies of the contracts yesterday that have been approved by and signed by the director of DNR. You haven't received them yet, Charlie, the originals, but they have been signed and sent out. So that's $25,000 worth of grants that for the 3 years in a row now that we've been able to secure to handle old tires. The roadside litter, you have the spreadsheet that I have provided to you. As you will see there, the sheriff's office was able to pick up 13 days in January, and they were able to pick up 12,100 pounds, which is 6 tons off of roadways, and 105 tires off of right-of-ways. So that program, I thank you all for doing that last year, because it has meant more to us than anything that we've done as far as, other than the Adopt a Road program. Our roads are looking better than they ever have. In addition to that, on that same spreadsheet, you will see that in January of 2019, we collected 488 tons of garbage. Of that, 36.7 was recycled material, 291 tons was compactor or household trash, 16 was the overflow containers, and 143 tons of what we call construction and demolition waste. The one thing that I want to point out to you is that if you look at 2017, the month of January, 388 tons. So we have increased in 2 years 100 tons of solid waste. Now that is significant, folks. And one of the things that I don't think you all realize, I don't think the public realizes, is that that is not all in revenue generating garbage. either household garbage or the construction and demolition waste. We collect garbage from the two cities, from Parks and Recreation, from the courthouse, a variety of different places that there is no revenue, but we have the expense of paying to get rid of it. So I just want you commissioners to remember that. That's all I have.
Do you keep track of how many poles or whatever you count?
Yes, we do.
But for recycle?
Yes.
Can you add that as a thought on here? The public would like to know that.
How many pulls?
Whatever measure
Well,
you use.
yeah, I can, no, what we get from Advanced Dallas is the number of pulls and the tonnage every month. And I don't know how we incorporate that in. We might have to do a separate spreadsheet, but yes, sir, we can.
I think the public would be interested in that,
Yeah.
and the trend there would be useful.
One of the things that you can see is the recycle in January was actually down from 2017 and from 2018. So people are not bringing recycled material to the three centers that we collect from. So yeah. Yes, sir, we'll provide that to you next month. That's all I have.
Are we still collecting revenue from the recycling?
We collect no revenue from recycling, never have. Never have.
I mean, not from the public, but receiving it.
No, we're actually paying.
We're paying, DJ. We pay to dispose of that
selling
recycle. Now, what the benefit that the public gets is that if they recycle the material, then they pull that recycle out of their household garbage and put it into the recycle compactor free of charge, so it reduces their household garbage expense. But we, being the solid waste department, we still eat that. We pay for that recycle to be handled and disposed of.
Okay, any other questions for Jim? Thank you, Jim. Discussion and possible action on equipment for the jury rooms.
I'll give you an update and then give you an announcement on that. That's our vendor day is this Friday, and there will be 6 vendors that I'm confirmed that will be here. I might just throw out the names. ETC will be here to talk to folks. Johnson Controls, the Vimeo people, which is called Livestream, that part of their company is going to be there. Amatrace, which is a local or an Atlanta dealer and supplier. Unified Technology Systems and Solution Z, which I've only had one discussion, but those are the vendors that have confirmed to be there.
What about Johnson Controls?
Johnson is in there, if I didn't mention that.
You may have.
It is, they are planning to be there. That'll go on all day, and I do encourage anybody and everybody that can to come by. It's an open house arrangement, so you don't have a scheduled time. They will just be there to talk and show and tell. And so hopefully we have a good turnout for talking to them. I've been in touch with them, the vendors. They will be here setting up early, like 8 o'clock. Is that okay, TJ? 8 o'clock?
Well, they won't be able to get the courthouse.
Till 8.
Actually, 8:30.
I'll have to talk to the sheriff, see. And then that's the only scheduled activity that's going on. Our building authority had a meeting and discussed part of this, since we kind of initiated that back a year ago or whatever. I am going to step away from being a contact person for that, and Joanne DePlanky has been willing to sit down and help herd that project along and be the contact person. So I'm turning the reins over to her relative to what I've been doing so far. That's just to take care of the paperwork and the follow-up and the scheduling and all of that. I don't see that as changing the role of the judges or the Board of Commissioners and all that. It's just an add-on to that, and I appreciate Joanne willing to step in and help me. It will partly relieve me of any possible conflict of interest in the long term. Plus, I was spending too many hours on pro bono work. It didn't really want to continue doing that, so I'm stepping back a little bit. I'll continue to be involved. That's it as far as I know. I don't have any further updates beyond that. Don't have any thing to follow up beyond that. It needs to be scheduled and continued. But I'll try to answer any questions if I can. And Joanne, you can comment if there's anything. The final thing that, not final, the one thing that I think we worked out finally, Charlie, after a lot of funny paperwork was the bookkeeping. Sandy, I think we're okay on that as far as I'm aware. We don't have to deal with that anymore. That was just a bookkeeping accounting procedure. So I think that's taken care of on the budget. Yeah.
Are you talking about the infamous letter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I sent that finally.
Yeah, I think that's a settled.
And we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
The real-
when we get to the
All right.
That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Dallas. Under discussion items, there's one thing that I want to talk about briefly, and that is I want to sort of bring everybody up to date with the status out of the fire department. As you probably all know, Chief Bridget has submitted his resignation. Lisa will be sometime probably in the next week or so advertising for replacements. What I'm trying to do here is, I think it was kind of a bad situation to have the public safety director wear 3 different hats: the fire chief, public safety director, and EMA director. So I've separated, for the time, for now at least, the fire chief out separately. Ultimately, I'd like to separate the EMA director out separately, but it's not really feasible right now to do that. So the 2 positions that we'll be advertising for is fire chief and public safety director / EMA director. Lisa will be advertising outside the department as well as internally in the department for anyone that wants to submit applications for those positions. I had a big conversation with Tony yesterday. We both agreed that it would be mutually beneficial if he were to go ahead and pursue the opportunities that he's looking for, so that there wouldn't be a lot of confusion as to kind of who's in charge. I have appointed 2 interim people. Brian Scudder is the interim fire chief, and Keith Becerra as the interim public safety director. Now, once these positions are advertised, we evaluate the candidates and selections are made. I will be adding to the agenda for approval from y'all of whatever candidate is ultimately selected for the public safety director. And of course, y'all can submit any candidates that you want to be considered for that. I'm skeptical that they can be in March, but hopeful that it can be in April. In fact, I think May would probably be the very latest fact, only interest for 6 months, but for 90 days, so. So we're, there's a clock ticking.
Mr. Chairman, could you speak, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'll do that. I was just saying that we will be taking applications for a fire chief and for a public safety director. Anticipating that it'll be several weeks before we select final candidates, and that I will then submit to the full board for approval for the public safety director, which would be the department head. Now, in the meantime, I appointed Brian Scudder as the interim fire chief and Keith Casera as the interim public safety director. I met with the fire department, most of them, last night, and announced to them officially, of course, they'd already known for a day or so, because apparently the fire department grade is more powerful than what I thought it was. But I gave them the information officially, so as of that point, Keith and Brian are now running things at the fire department. Those are the personnel changes. I'm going to mention some potential budget amendments when we get to that part, but I did want to give you all the status on that and bring you up to date on that, see if you had any questions about it.
So who is interim EMA director?
That's Keith Casera. Actually, right now, it's public safety / EMA. It used to be public safety / EMA / fire chief, but that part was moved out. I can't move the EPA director out separately yet because we don't have anybody that can be an interim because there's certifications involved. So for now, Keith will wear both those hats. Any questions on that? If not, we will move down. Do we have any other general discussions from anybody? Then the first item that I'd like to talk about under action items would be the budget amendments. There are 3 that I'd like to request. For the most part, we're not talking about significant amounts of additional dollars. We're talking about changes. In the original budget, we had allocated $249,400 for a new tanker truck. Now, we did this based on the list of priorities that we were given. We requested every department to give us their list of priorities, since none of the departments can get everything they wanted. Those priorities have changed now with the new administration, so to speak, within the fire department. And the request that had been made, which I thoroughly agree with, is that the tanker truck not be purchased for the $249,400 in 2019, and instead that what is purchased is the turnout gear and the air tanks for the individual firefighters. I don't have firm numbers on those at this point. I've asked them to give me something firm. What was originally submitted for that was $50,000 for the turnout gear and $210,000 for the air tanks. Now that's more than the $249,400. That's of course about $260,000. I'm not requesting at this point that that be increased because we don't have firm enough numbers to start doing that right now. What I am requesting though is that we approve a budget amendment to move away from the tanker truck and instead incorporate the turnout gear and the air tanks. So, and I will ask David, is that something we can do on a agenda change, or is it in March?
Well, I think y'all already agreed to then 2018 to do your budget amendments on a quarterly basis, that you were discussing in the meetings and work sessions, and then confirm them every quarter. So, I mean, if y'all can have an understanding that that would be acceptable, and this would be a part of that quarterly.
So this will be the discussion, and we'll put it on the March agenda, all of the budget amendments.
Right, and y'all can have an understanding on it today. I mean, if that, you'll just solidify it with that resolution in March.
I remember them talking about this. The new director, should we not hold off to see what they say? I don't know.
Mean
who's
permanent group?
Right.
No, I think we should go with what these folks are saying, because I have asked them not to think of themselves as interims, even though, I mean, I'm clear with them that they are interims. They may be the new directors, we don't know, but I have asked them to make whatever changes they feel needs to be made and to start, sort of take control and not be just caretakers, and actually go in and start trying to identify the problems and the corrections. The other thing is, and I know, Dallas, you felt this way, and I really do too, that I always felt that the more important item would be the turnout gear and gear tanks, but that just wasn't the priority preference that we were given at the time. I still feel that should have been the priority, so, yeah, I'm not real big on holding off on it, assuming I agree.
So, Charlie, if I hear what you're saying, we could keep the same 249 something in the budget, but move it to those items.
Correct.
And really, that would be, I'm agreeable to that. And we can do that whenever we do the official amendment.
Yeah, and actually, if they're going to proceed with that, in that direction, both of these items are likely going to exceed your charter amount, which would require them to be bid, and that's going to be some time there, so it'll probably coincide. That purchase would probably coincide with that March meeting at the earliest, to be honest with you, because they got to spec this out.
You got to bid it out.
But with an understanding between us and agreement, they could go ahead and do
Spec it out.
the spec down. So, and they'd give us a better cost figures too.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I'll be proposing tomorrow night if y'all feel that. Yeah.
But we won't, as David says, we can
Well, it won't be.
agree you to proceed, but we'll do the official amendment whenever we do the.
Right, this won't be a motion to change
Okay.
for the amendment, this will just be making sure y'all are on board with this.
I'm
good.
That's acceptable. But that's a good question as to how you work and who could. And I agree, we ought to proceed.
The other request, we have two more requests. The building authority has requested that we go ahead and release $10,000 from the courthouse improvement, courthouse improvement contingency fund for the painting of the courthouse. I know, Carlene, you wanted to weigh in on that, but just to say, however we do it, the request is to go ahead and release money from that contingency account to do that. Now, the money's there in the contingency, it's just not there as an approved budgeted item at this point. So, I know you got concerns.
I do. I would really like to see a bid or a professional, I don't think the right word is power washer, but that does this kind of marble. I mean, this kind of surface.
Yeah.
To have their opinion on that, because once you've done it, you can't go back. I mean, you can, but it's a whole lot more work. So I've already had an architect friend just visually look at it that said, oh no, you don't want to paint this. So I just like to see a professional come in and
actually, I don't think that the building authority was recommending painting it. That wasn't their.
No, I think they specifically were recommending.
No, I thought it was a washing.
Did I misinterpret that, Joey?
Yeah,
I don't think we ever specified paint.
No, it was to clean and wash it. There was no mention of paint.
It's what was in the quote from last fall. Blue Jean has it, but it wasn't painting.
No, it wasn't
No.
painting, it was applying
No.
cleaning materials and then
Cleaning the grout and soap stuff
Right.
and.
pressure washing was.
I somehow got the impression we were talking about painting as well.
No, they did not.
That'll simplify things, but your
But the
purpose.
question you have is,
Anyway.
what's the right method?
Correct. I would just
Yeah.
like to see a professional come out and really look at it and bid it that does this kind of work. Even before cleaning, because we're paying a lot of money for this courthouse for a long time. You know, I know it needs cleaning. I'm not arguing that at all. I just think that we need to
Right.
just take the time to make sure it's done
Besides
right.
the sandstone, the brick surface is really, there's some places
That would not be an issue with the
Yeah.
brick or the trim.
But, y'all could go back to the contractors, the general contractors, because this was installed in other areas of the state as far as county courthouses are concerned. You ever go to Forsyth, you'll see, they do an excellent job of keeping that courthouse clean, and it's just a matter of having to do it annually and staying on top of it, so to speak. But you go back to Winters, see who the manufacturer was of the product and see what their recommendations are, and they may have some.
Forsyth, if it's Forsyth, we ought to pursue seeing how they treat it or deal with it. Yeah. And it's a concern, I understand. And I don't think, as a building authority, there was ever any hard and fast rule or discussion of a particular method of cleaning and sealing or whatever needs to be done to maintain it. I think that's open to.
I know last year we were talking specifically about painting, weren't we, DJ?
We had an option, we did discuss that here in our meeting.
I just got that.
We did,
So,
yeah, we
The
did.
reason we were speaking about paint is because unfortunately, when this place was built on phase one, we used a different contractor. In phase two, we used a different contractor. Phase two contractor did not get mortar all over the cast stone. But phase one contractor did get mortar all over the cast stone, so even when it's clean, you can still see mortar on the cast stone, and it's just looked really awful. It was a really bad job to begin with, and they signed off on it as it was done.
yeah. Did we, has there been an actual quote from some professional to come out and look at it, or are we just saying we want to proceed with it?
In some cases, in some cases, we had damage to the courthouse or something was spray painted on it that cleaning wouldn't remove, and those surfaces were painted. And those surfaces were painted 8 years ago, and the paint still remains intact, and it's not, you know, and that's why we thought that painting the rest of it, cover it, would be a good idea, because that would also cover up the bad spots on the mortar and make it look a little nicer.
But to answer that question, I don't think there's ever been a professional come out and look at it and bid it that does this work.
That's
correct.
correct, yeah.
I would just really like to see that.
Yeah, no, I'm not disputing that, I'm just telling you what has happened.
And I
and
understand.
what the reasons are.
Right.
From a building authority's perspective, will y'all be okay with having a professional come out and give us some suggestions?
Or
And y'all would have to be the one to do
You
it.
could spec it and submit it for bid, because, what is it, Georgia Dot, I'm sure that there are some that have, done bids on that, because again, it's pretty common material that's been used in the courthouse, but even absent what's on ground level, what's up on the brick is really, and you seriously need to clean, and there's nothing that should hold that back from being cleaned. If you walk up the handicap ramp by the voter record and look at those windows, I mean, it's pretty bad. It's really, to be honest with you, it's not becoming.
Without getting into the specifics of the manner that it's done, when we do our budget amendments in March, the amount that was requested from the courthouse contingency fund was $10,000. We can go ahead and do the amendment to allocate $10,000 to the cleaning of the courthouse. without being specific as to how that's
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And then the building authority can go ahead and in conjunction with Carleen, make sure that those concerns are taken care of, and the funding will be there.
And potentially, we could do the non-sandstone or whatever portion.
Well, if you're gonna get a professional to examine, you might as well hold off on doing anything up top, because once you do up top, that solvent may actually end up down on the
That's a
bottom.
good point.
It would ruin that surface.
Good
So
point.
I would defer until you can get a professional in here. And again, I'd get somebody that was responsible for that material there to begin with. And then you can go to bid to see who, for cleaning it, whatever.
I want to take the time to do it right.
Yes.
A couple months or so, that's.
Right, I agree with you, sure.
But I would like for us to go ahead and get funding in place, so that once the decision is made as to which is the
We don't
best
have
way
to
to do
come
it,
back.
we don't have to then come
I
back
agree.
again.
I hadn't got a dog in this race, but if my memory serves me correctly, Winter Construction did a written pamphlet on the care of that stone, the sandstone on the outside. Now, whether you can find that or not, but I believe there was actually a document that was produced, because at the time that this courthouse was built, it wasn't that common of a building product. Now, it may be since that time, but I'll bet Winter Construction probably has a copy of that document if we can't find it here. Because I remember discussions about the care of the stone.
Joey, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Well, I was just gonna say that we're kind of going around in circles here, but it was my understanding that DJ had gotten some people to look at it, and this quote from Bradburn, I don't know where that came from. I mean, the building authority wasn't the person that got the quotes and whatever. And if we want to step back and have a professional company come and give us an estimate, I think that's a great idea. But also, as DJ pointed out, and we went into great detail, and I photographed all those different solutions and whatever. And the painting that was done 8 years ago seems extraordinary, and a much better solution than cleaning it every year or two to keep that soapstone, which just stains and stains and stains. But the building needs to be cleaned before you can do anything. It's disastrous, it looks awful. But whether to get a professional cleaner to come out, I think that's what we should do before we have Bradburn clean it, if that's what we end up deciding.
You think $10,000 will be sufficient to?
Well, to get somebody to come and give us an estimate, we shouldn't have to pay for a quote, but.
No, but in March, we want to be able to go ahead, and maybe we'll have to have some.
Oh,
We won't
maybe
be
if
able
we
to go
decide
ahead.
to use them, it'll be a lot more than 10,000.
That's what I'm asking. But we don't have to decide that right now. Let's get the professionals out, and it'll be on the March agenda, and we can decide.
I know
which way to go.
it needs to be done, obviously.
Okay, and now, who does that? I mean, the building authority has no money. We.
Well, no, the money would be
So
the money we're talking
But
about.
who makes those phone calls? Who does that? And don't say the chairman of the building authority.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I'm fine with the county doing it. I think it would be more appropriate if the building authority, with the chairman or otherwise, did it. The only thing I would say is, if y'all want the county to do it, then I don't want to get into a back and forth with the building authority, because that's not what we want. But we don't have to decide that today. We will, we've had a bit of a discussion, and we know what's coming, and we'll let's try to get the professionals out, get the estimates, and be able to have some figures and discuss it in March, if that works for everybody.
It does. And by the way, I think our lease from the building authority to Board of Commissioners probably puts that into the commissioner's role pretty much.
Fine by me.
Yeah.
My only point is, if we do it, I don't want to
You don't
get
want to have
back and
that,
forth.
and I agree.
I don't mind calling
I
somebody,
agree.
finding out,
I agree, Charlie.
but I'm just, I don't wanna go around.
You've got
I'm happy to do
somebody
it,
in
sure.
I'd start with the winners. And then Jim's right, if we can't locate the material in the pamphlet
Check with the other
here
counties.
in the courthouse, then they may very well still have a copy of it. And then I'd ask them who they would recommend for inspection and estimate of cleaning.
And you're saying winners.
Mr. Chairman,
Construction.
Winters.
a professional power washing company that would be bonded and insured will know the products they're cleaning.
Yeah.
They'll know the surface they're cleaning. They'll quote it based on the surface. They're bonded, they're insured, and they should know what they have to do to clean your surface. That if you go with quotes of professionals that are bonded and insured, they should know the surface you want cleaned. They should put it on the bid that they're cleaning X surface. And then if there's ever a problem, you have some recourse because they are professionals.
That's what he said.
That's my
It's too much.
All right.
It's too important.
If you've got somebody in mind. If you've got somebody in mind.
Okay. I have nobody in particular, I just want it done right.
Moving on. The final request that will be coming for budget amendments is one of the changes that we would like to make in the fire department, in conjunction with separating out the fire chief and public safety director and so forth is, I would like to move the public safety director's office out of the fire station and into, preferably into here in the commissioner's wing, just because that's the only place I know I'll be in a suitable room. That would require taking some of the space here and essentially putting on the wall and door to make an office. Pretty much the same thing we did for Lisa's office back here. We were able to get that done for $1,200–1,300. We had DJ's folks do it. If it had been farmed out, our best estimate would be that it would have cost us $2,000. What I'll probably do would be to ask for a budget amendment, and again from the same courthouse improvement fund, for $2,000 to build out that office, and we'll try to bring it in more like 12 or 13, but we just can't know for sure that we can do that in this particular location.
I agree it ought to be relocated. I think that just makes things more workable.
It does. I'm convinced.
I agree.
It does. You okay with that? Okay. Then, moving along. I got a call from the Georgia State.
And we'll just, that would be a move from the contingency.
Yes.
So that-
Mr. Chairman,
Same fund. Yes, sir.
while you're discussing budget amendments,
Yeah.
can I make a brief comment?
Yes.
I just want to say that the former public safety director, EMA director, came into the budget hearings and convinced the commission, let's say it just like that, convinced the previous commission a tanker truck was necessary. To the point that the commission said we're going to put roughly $240,000 in a budget for a tanker truck that this individual that was in charge felt was necessary.
Right.
Then you go out, and I don't know what happened, but you had a meeting, I don't know if you went out, had a meeting, and you talked to the two interim that are in place now.
Right.
And all due respect to them, I mean, they're good people, they'll do a good job for you. But in a conversation, wherever you were, they convinced you, let me put it like that, that tanker truck that was necessary is not necessary. So I'm concerned on this year what is going to happen in this county when we need that tanker truck, and I'm being facetious. is not there, but we were convinced we needed it.
Let me say this.
But let me just say that.
I'm sorry.
All right, no, I don't, let me just say, so we're gonna switch air tanks. I don't even know what air tanks are, okay? So I'm not disrespecting what they said, but in that conversation, they have then convinced this commission, 2 more people, that this $240,000 is a lot of money, all right? And this is the largest budget in this county, okay, right? That we,
Of non-elected, yeah.
right, of non-elected. That we need air tanks and turnover equipment, which, and once again, my argument as a citizen of this county, the 3 of you are saying we're gonna make that change tomorrow night, and once again, there's no real research. I mean, why do we need these air tanks?
Okay.
I mean, the decision-making process for $240,000, this is a fine example of this department, which you guys are in charge of, from last year to this year, that now we need the air tanks. Well, my concern is, if we needed the water truck for $240,000, but we didn't buy the air tanks. So what about the public safety of, we didn't have these air tanks this year? I'm just saying, I know, I apologize for my tone, but this is your opportunity to bring this department in and finally make, my opinion, with the last commission, not yours, going back to Chairman Sanford, in 8 years, finally bring in and do the research of what's needed in this area instead of these kinds of decisions. All due to 240. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Let me say that when you talk about convincing me, for instance, that we need the turnout gear and air tanks rather than the truck, that doesn't take a lot of convincing, because I told the firefighters last night, we had full leadership there and most of the firefighters, I'm not a firefighter. I don't know. You come to me and you tell me you need a tanker truck. All I know is the people I have in place that is supposed to guarantee people's safety and do all this, they're telling me that the requirement is a tanker truck. If you tell me you need turnout gears and air tanks, then, you know, I'm like you. I don't know what all of this stuff consists of. I rely on the leadership of the fire department to tell me that. Well, at the time, the turnout gear and the fire tanks were deemed to be critical. I mean, it was right up front that they said that these things are critical. The only thing was, when I said, okay, well, prioritize all of your requests, the tanker truck was prioritized just above turnout gear, which was just above air tanks. And the cutoff in the terms of the amount of money that we had to allocate came after the tanker truck. Now, what happened was, in conversations with Mr. Casera, at the time we were essentially doing the interview, I guess you'd call it, in terms of the interim position there. One of the things he said was he'd like to discuss some budget items, and I said, sure. He said that, in his opinion, the tanker truck wasn't essential right now. But, in his opinion, the turnout gear and the air tanks were critical. And he would like to request that those be flip-flopped. In the conversation I had last night, in the meeting I had last night with all the firefighters, we had that conversation, and the turnout gear essentially then is what they wear going into the burning areas to protect themselves. The air tanks are also what they have to breathe when they're in that environment. What they're saying is that the gear that they have, forgetting for the moment the tanker truck, the gear that they have is so old that it's deemed pretty much unreliable, particularly in terms of the air tanks, which are especially critical. So those things are like 20 years old, and really, they really need to be replaced. A couple of them were telling me stories about when they put on their turnout gear and they go to fight a fire, that because of holes in the equipment, water seeps into their boots and their the rest of their protective clothing. And, you know, obviously that's not protecting them that much if you've got that situation. So I'll tell you how important it is to them. When I suggested to them that I would pursue the turnout gear in the air tanks rather than the tanker truck, they all applauded. I mean, they were some happy firemen about that because it's their personal safety now that we're talking about. And they all felt that the tanker truck was not essential to what they do, so.
Well, I'm not disrespecting their knowledge of what they do. I don't do that, so I would be in the same position. I'm looking at it from the standpoint of the taxpayers. Is the turnout gear outdated? I mean, does it not meet state certification? Because if it doesn't meet state certification, but does it?
In my understanding, most of it does not.
Okay.
I can't say all of it doesn't, but most of it does.
But some of it still does.
Some.
Do the air tanks not meet state certification? Are we over there with air tanks that don't meet it?
I don't know what the situation is with.
See, I don't know either. Now, I think the only point I'm making, and not to push that, because I don't want to, there's no divide where I'm concerned on the welfare of the men and women that go into burning houses. I mean, I want them to have adequate equipment, but it's the decision-making process, the process. So that's my interest is, I would hope that this being the largest non-constitutional office budget, which mirrors up to the largest constitutional office budget, only by a couple $100,000 maybe. I would hope that the process, this is the opportunity for the process to change.
I wouldn't argue that.
Well, let me respond a little bit too. When we had our budget meetings, there was quite a bit of discussion, and I think healthy discussion. When we, as the commissioners, we knew we didn't have 100% of the money to pay for everything ever was being requested. We did this year, for this year's budget, much better job of trying to get the budget requesters to prioritize their needs into what was needed versus what could be delayed to another year, or what is the priorities. And we did that, I think, very well this year, which some years we don't do well, or haven't done well. It did, as Charlie said, exactly the fire chief and prioritized those things with the tanker truck first. Very close, I will agree. A lot of discussion of that, what would be highest priority. I think it's healthy right now that this comes up and we discuss and we reassess those priorities to see if there is any reason to change those priorities. I think it ought to be thoroughly understood and discussed, and I think that's the process we're into actually. And if those priorities have changed for whatever reason, I want to know what the reason is and then we move forward. But I like the idea of having the priorities set, because this is an example, a good example that says we budgeted for a particular item or service, but our priorities have changed. And I think this is the healthy part of that. I don't know, like Charlie, I'm not a firefighter, and I don't know what is most important.
You don't know what is, but
and I have to ask, and I have to get that advice from whoever's in charge.
you don't know what is, and all due respect, Mr. Chairman, if I was the person over there, I'd be in the same boat. The men and women that are over here that are the first responders in this county, I have respect for, say it in public, and I want them to be safe. But I know how it sounds, but to say to spend $240,000 because the vote was an overwhelming cheer, okay. Now, wait, I understand when you said that's the priority, they cheered. Here's what I'd like to hear, whether, you know, I'm a citizen here, my tax money. What I'd like to have is the two people here, I'm asking for the process, $240,000, the two interims. I would like to see somebody take some information, and one of the interims say, we have over there 19 suits. The 19 suits average $1,822. We have 7 suits that are inadequate. I would not send somebody in this county in a house tomorrow burning. We have 12 suits that only have a year and a half left in life. We really need to replace 19 suits for $192,000. I would love that. That's all I'm asking for as a citizen. The second thing on tanks, we got 18 sets of tanks. 13 are out of date. I would not, and then as a citizen, I will overwhelmingly support you getting this stuff for their safety to go in. But the process, once again, this is the opportunity to bring data and say, this is what we're voting on.
Mr. Kucera is going to be here for a regular meeting tomorrow night, and we'll be able to have that discussion.
But that's, I mean, I'm not trying to come across disrespectful in their needs and your decision. But that's where I hope could change now, where that department's concerned.
We can definitely have that conversation tomorrow at the regular meeting. We will have people here for that. Normally, we would have them here today, but this is their first day in the new assignments, and there are things that have to be dealt with that kind of prohibit this meeting, but for today, but they'll be here by now.
That's good.
Okay. Next item is, we received a quick request from the Georgia State Patrol Canton office. Apparently, the state of Georgia does not fund certain equipment for them. They're instructed to go to their counties they serve and ask for.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. Georgia State Patrol. And in fact, it was either 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we funded some tasers for them. The request that we have this year is, and not just from us, but for all the surrounding counties, is to fund some radar guns. The guns that they have are apparently so old that they can be recertified. I asked for how many in terms of Gilmer County, and they asked for 2 to 3, which I interpreted as 2. I asked for the cost, and they said between $2,000 and $2,500 each. That's the low end radar guns. I told them I would bring that before the commission. Obviously, that's something that we'll have to put on the large agenda, but I want to make you aware of the request.
Doesn't Blue Ridge office officially patrol our county?
This actually came from the Blue Ridge office. I'm sorry, I said Canton.
I heard you say
It's a Canton district or something. This actually came from the Blue Ridge office.
I got you, okay.
You don't think the citizens are gonna vote for that, do you?
Well,
I was
one of
thinking,
the-
this
one
is
of
your
the-
opportunity to nix radar guns? 550.
Well, my
One
question
of
is,
the,
why have a radar? They do not use them, there's no speed limit on that road. I mean, why have a radar?
now see, you're trying to use common sense here. You can't do that. One of the arguments that they made was that they do contribute about $100,000 a year to our income through the use of the radar. I'm just putting it out there. Okay. That's all of the items that I wanted to have added in, so we can go ahead and start with the regular agenda now.
Joey, can I make a recommendation? Gary is on the last item on the agenda, number 21, and I'm sure
Well,
he'd
how
like.
did that happen?
I was late getting in, I'm sorry. And I'm sure he'd love to be moved up to the top so he could go do some of the work in the county on the sewer lines and water lines.
Whatever you got, I appreciate that, but whatever you guys have to do.
This is a pretty simple thing, and there's no point in you know, this could actually take another 30, 40 minutes.
Well, I'm actually on number 12 too, so.
Oh, okay, well,
I'm good, I appreciate that though.
well, why don't we do both of his together at 12? Does that work for you?
Agreed. Thank you.
All right, resolution of county property and vehicles inventory list to be approved along with insurance coverage. This is something that our charter requires us to do every year. And y'all should have a list of our inventory. So tomorrow night, we'll simply need a resolution to approve that vehicle list.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Those values that are listed on there, can you give me a
Oh,
used or new or replacement or depreciated
that
or?
was the same exact question I had. I believe the original thing that I got on there said that in that particular column, you put the new cost of the vehicle.
Replacement.
No, it said new cost in the one,
Oh,
the
the
original one
original.
that I looked at. Now, I don't know what this one's saying.
This just says value.
Intermodal value, okay. In the original sheet that I was looking at, you remember we discussed it, it said in this column to enter the original cost of the vehicle. Now, some of these vehicles we've got down here at $2,500 and $5,000 for Jeeps, and that may be what they're worth now, but I can pretty much guarantee you that's not what we paid for them initially. Others are down at a figure that looks like, yeah, that could be what we paid initially. So I asked Edwina to check into that, and she did call these folks, and their answer was essentially, it is what it is, don't worry about it. What they said was that the only thing that matters in terms of the insurance is the current value, and that will be determined at the time of the claim, and that just don't even worry about what's in this column. I don't know what else to tell you. I've got the same question you have. It makes no sense to me. But what they're saying is, we'll determine the value at the time of the claim, and it'll be what we say it is then, and don't worry about that column. I don't know what else to say.
Okay.
We asked for guidance, but
I hear
you know, that's what we got.
As long as these items are vehicles that are, quote, in service, I don't want to pay insurance on
These are all in service vehicles.
that's all we can do is what it is.
Now, some of them toward the end of the year may be taken out of service and option on, because at that time, they'll be removed.
They'll come on.
They'll come off.
Okay.
But this is what we have to approve for them.
Okay, gotcha.
You
That
know,
was my only question. Although, I thought normally we would include, do we do an annual inventory with mileage? Do we know the miles on these vehicles?
we don't do any sort of,
We don't keep track of
that.
Okay,
And that's not one of the things that's required by the code, which is what we're
I'm with you,
doing.
I'm with you. But it would be a factor when we get a claim, probably.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. It would be, because that goes back to what they're saying, is that we will determine the value at the time of the claim. And mileage will obviously would be one consideration for that.
Okay, I'm with you.
So that's something that we'll be requesting a resolution to approve the vehicle list tomorrow night. The second item is appointment of a member to the Joint Development Authority. This will actually be a reappointment. Alan Denny.
I'm sorry, let's go back, because that also includes buildings, right?
Yeah, county property, which should be, I believe,
It's part of that.
part of that fact. There is also a list of county property in there. and-
Same question, what is that value number?
Actually, and when didn't they actually come out and evaluate those?
Yeah, we
Those
went
are-
and
they're-
I took him for a tour to each building that's on his list, and he looked at it and made his evaluation.
Well, those are their
A
evaluations.
current, that'd basically be a current value.
Yeah.
I
For them.
explained to him any improvements that were made to the building or any unimprovements, for lack of a better term, but he took pictures, made notes, and then gave a summary adjustment after the fact.
And we have a packet that's got each of these properties with a picture and those figures, if you'd like me to get you.
No, I just wanted to know how that value was established.
They
So we're good.
Pretty much the same way with adjusted.
Okay. Okay, so this is all of our properties are listed here, again required by the code, so both of those items in the form of, I guess, I don't know if we can do one resolution or two, but anyway.
Yeah, so that's what, I think it's interesting to see. We may have more vehicles than we have employees. I didn't count up, but I would just raise that as a question.
Not going there.
No, we're not going there.
Okay. Appointment of a member to the Joint Development Authority. This will be a reappointment. Alan Davenport's term is ending. He is willing to serve again. Discussion and possible action on special zoning for portable sawmill operations. This is something that was requested that we put on the agenda by Alan Davenport. Personally, I'm not real enthusiastic about it, especially in terms of portable sawmills, because one of the problems that we have right now is with portable sawmills that, they crank them up, carry them somewhere and start sawmilling and people go nuts. Because, especially if you stay there for a while, it's not what you want to sit out on your back porch and listen to. So, we'll have a thorough discussion of that, more so, I guess, when we get talking about the zoning, but, yes, sir.
I have a question about that. I asked recently about the noise ordinance, and they say that we have no noise ordinance in the county.
That's not technically true. It used to be. We have now, y'all may remember that we adopted a disturbing the peace ordinance. It was originally requested by the district attorney. And one of the items in there is, in that ordinance, is a noise level that prevents the people around it from being able to enjoy their quality of life. I can get you a copy of that if you like.
Well, that eliminates my joy of life at 2:30 in the morning when an engine brake that's unmuffled goes off on the road and there's no noise ordinance. That's the question that I asked.
I don't think there's anything that would cover,
I know that's not, maybe that's not county business, but
no,
we're talking about the same thing basically, from what I understand you say.
Yeah. It wouldn't cover something like, a loud car coming by or something like that, but it would cover repeated operation, repeated loud noises. What we've used it for in the past, I say we, what it's been used for in the past, not necessarily by us, is people who go out 5-6 days a week and shoot off a couple of thousand rounds in their backyards. There's been at least one successful case where that was stopped because of this ordinance. It's that sort of thing, repetitive kind of things that happen.
I can't go out in my backyard and do target shooting if that overcomes.
No, and it's not that. You can't go out in your backyard every afternoon and shoot out a couple of thousand rounds. If you want to go out occasionally and do some target shooting, or if you're in an area where you can do it and you're not in a subdivision, this was a subdivision where this was going on. It's no problem. This is not specifically against target shooting, but if you have somebody that shoots off 2,000-3,000 rounds every day, you don't want to live around there. And the folks that do live around there utilize this ordinance to essentially get that stopped.
The ones that are already in place have a grandfathered in?
Not in terms of target shooting or anything else.
I'm talking about firing ranges. I have one that I hear regularly that fires all day and from time to time.
Is it a commercial firing range?
Yes.
If it's a commercial firing range, David, I would imagine that would be granted.
Well, for one, it would have to have a business license, and that's how we would have identified it. And it either had to have been in existence prior to the adoption of the ordinance, or it had to have been permitted under the classification of the area which is being conducted. So I don't know which firing range we're talking about. Is that the one?
think he has a large tract of land and a license. Is that
So it may be grandfathered in, but we weren't specifically going after firing ranges with this. We just,
I'm getting to the point is that, here we are, that, we're asking you folk, to carry out what goes on in my backyard instead of a community effort, you know. I have to be permitted to do everything that I do, whether if my neighbor don't like it and complains, then I'm in trouble. That's what we've come to. I mean, that's what this is coming to.
yes, sir. I can't deny that.
It hurts me.
Yes, sir.
Charlie, I've got some questions and concerns about the local bill also, I just not ready to support that,
Yeah.
that Alan is requesting.
Yeah, we get a lot of complaints, actually, mostly for one particular one, but on the, my concern is more on the portable, than it is on any permanent one, because a permanent one would have to come through us for approval, and people can reject. You know, we can just figure out if it's gonna hurt the neighbors or not. But a portable one, you just crank it up and take it wherever you want it to go. And I just do have some concerns about that. I also, if it's going to be approved, I have concern with the proposal that it be permitted in A1 rather than conditional. The suggestion is conditional under commercial and R1 and permitted under A1 and I1. I would have concerns about it just being automatically permitted under any of them. I think it should be conditional.
Charlie, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't exactly understand what the special permit would be, but are you saying this would govern, let's say you've got a couple of special trees that you've taken down and you want somebody with a portable sawmill to come and saw them into lumber you're going to use for furniture. It'll take 2 days.
We're talking
You have to have a
about
permit, I mean, zoning for that, or?
what we're talking about is a sawmill that operates frequently at the same location.
Or like, I want to buy a portable sawmill on my property, and I'm going to now let people bring things there, and I'm going to be operating
more in
this
that line.
3
which is
days
where we have
this
a
week
problem.
and 3 days next week when someone else brings me something,
That
so
kind of
it's
thing.
on one piece of property, an occasional use of not moving it.
If you had 50 trees and you wanted somebody to come out and take in 4 or 5 weeks or whatever, at some point, yeah, you're running into this. But if you got a couple of trees that you want taken down, I don't see that as what we're talking about here.
Well, I mean, it might take a couple of days to saw a couple of trees and
Yeah, but then you're done.
boards, yes, to make some furniture.
This is the repetitive stuff, and honestly, my concern is because we've got situations where people have portable sawmills, and they essentially run a sawmill business from their home using the portable sawmill. And they're not approved for it. And in fact, we had one request for conditional use, which we denied, and they still running. We're trying to deal with that. But if you're in a residential area and you've got somebody running a portable sawmill in their backyard and it's there day after day, your quality of life just
Yes.
goes down the tubes.
But what if you're in the middle of nowhere, like out where I am in this big barn, there's nobody around in the middle of this 60 acres or 100 acres. I don't know if you would even hear it. Would you know if I did one?
Probably not, and as far as I'm concerned, in that situation, I don't care. It's, now, if you wanna take that same equipment and go out into the middle of a residential area and start doing a lot of work.
Right, I
That's when the
understand.
problem occurs.
I totally agree with that also. I mean, when you've got neighbors, you don't have the right to disturb their quality of life. But
And I'm not even saying that this can't happen. What I'm saying is it shouldn't be automatically permitted in any particular zone. It ought to be conditional use, whether it's A1 or whatever. It should be conditional and not automatically permitted. That lets people have an opportunity to weigh in on it, the neighbors. in the
well, see, I was
city.
gonna say, I mean, if I had 2 neighbors and I wanted to have a sawmill for the next 2 weeks that I ran during the daytime, I'd go and talk to them, and if they said, as long as you're done by 5 when I get home from work, they didn't care what I did. Would you care?
No, but here's the problem. If you are zoned to be able, if you have permission to do that in the zone, you can reach that agreement with your neighbors, and that's fine. But at the end of that time, if you tell them, I'm sorry about you, but I've decided this is profitable, and I'm gonna keep doing it, there's no recourse. Once you're permitted in the zoning, you're permitted.
Right.
And your agreement with your neighbors is just a courtesy. Now, if you're not permitted for it, and you go to your neighbors and say, I'm gonna do this for a couple of weeks, and they say, okay, fine. You know, my thing is do it, and, you know, nobody cares, nobody cares. But I don't want to give a situation where you can not have to have that agreement with them and just do it every day and they're out of it.
Can you not, I can't stand to say this, can you not do conditional? I mean, I've watched the county do special things in the past that were conditional, like he could have, or, I mean, just because it's here, I don't know about his situation, but he could have the zoning based on it can't operate after 5 p.m. and cannot start operation until after 8 a.m.
That's what
Monday
I'm
through
saying.
Friday.
But that's what I'm saying, if we're
And
gonna
then
do
who
this.
polices that, I don't know, but still, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, if we're gonna do this, it needs to be conditional.
Right.
The proposal has 2 zones where it would just simply be permitted. One of which is A1, which is all over the county.
Yeah, but like you just said to her, if she went to her 3 neighbors and they said, sure, fine, and she starts it up, and then they said, well, you broke the deal, there would be nothing binding. Well, this here would be the binding of the neighbors saying, okay, but I understand it's not gonna start before 8 a.m. and end at 5 p.m. Monday through Friday or whatever.
Well, if you gave me the conditional though, if the neighbors didn't like it, it's too bad.
Too bad.
Right.
It's better to go to the neighbors, they say, fine, go ahead and do it. The other thing about that too, though, is you're doing that for something that you need on your property. You're not talking about bringing in work from other people
Right.
to do that. It's not a profit-making commercial operation. And to me, that's all the difference in the world.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't care what you want to do. If you go to your neighbors and they say that's fine, and you do it, do it. But if you want to be able to do it no matter what the neighbors say and make money at it, it needs to be conditional and not just simply automatically permitted. Anything else on that? Okay. Final decision by the Gilmer County Board of Commissioners considering the recommendation by the Gilmer County Planning Commission regarding the application for a 2019 River Outfitters license for Cartay River Experience. Karen, all the requirements are met?
I did get copies of the insurance now. The insurance dates that all of them have are not January through December. They're whenever they get them, 12 months. One's May, one's February. I'm not sure what LJ's is
That
yet.
was the issue when, what was the company last month? It was LJ.
LJ.
Yeah. And, subsequent to the meeting, I was asking Gilmer about the insurance coverage, and that seemed to be, we weren't, there, in this application process, Tony wasn't collecting it, and Karen wasn't
It's not on
collecting
the
it. and
application
it
to
wasn't-
check off,
It wasn't
so.
there, and that was one of the primary reasons for the enactment of the ordinance. So I think any approval process y'all do until we can get that straightened out on this end is y'all's approval should be conditioned upon the proper submission of an insurance policy. Now, I don't like the fact that one of them's expiring in May. That really is troubling because, yeah, they really should work with their agent to be able to get those, hopefully in a calendar year, running concurrent with the permit itself. Because that places a burden on you to have to go back in May. And we've had a situation or two at the river where there was potentially a claim that may have been submitted to the county, and we've not had, that wouldn't have been a good situation. So I would, when you move forward on these tomorrow, make them subject to the submission of an insurance declaration page and having it run concurrent with the permitting timeframe. And that just means they'll have to go back to their agent. And if it's short, they'll have to extend it for 2 months, and if it's, or whatever.
Or just purchase for the remainder of the year.
Right.
Have it renewable in January.
Right.
I'm fine with it.
And I didn't see anything about the bands on any of these. Is that still?
But that's not necessarily in the permit, it's just in the ordinance.
And
There are a
that's
number of
still-
things in the ordinance that we don't listen to all the permit.
Right, okay. And that still, remind me, since this is my first season with that, is that they come to you to buy them? Or
They come to this office tomorrow.
okay.
Charlie, I've got one question. I know this has got two different property parcels dealing with it. We've had this argument before about what those properties, the parcels are zoned as.
I think
This
though
is what Travis brought up years ago.
Well, now, the Lower
think
Park
they had
Road is
separate
rezoned
issues.
to ag.
That's my question
And the 2400
is,
is commercial,
so one of these parcels is ag, it was residential,
yes.
and that was our original concern.
Right, and I think maybe in this application, we just have the applicant come back and circle the appropriate zoning for both parcels, and then just maybe say A1 is the lower LK, and then C1 is the,
It's just a documentation, because I did not realize whether these were in the proper zone or not.
Yeah, the gentleman that owns the Lower Park Hay property went through the zoning, Woody was his rep, and it was approved for an A1 zone.
If that's done and we do it conditional on the insurance, I'm good with it.
All right, the next item, adopting the first reader chapter title of land ordinance. I have had discussions with the Village Association where they would like to push it back one more month. Because they still want to have some work they want to do.
after just briefly looking at your email and the content that they submitted last night, I would encourage y'all to do that. I'd also encourage you to look very hard at, because that incorporated several different new elements, a duplex, a triplex, and a quadplex. I'd encourage you to potentially even create separate districts if you go in that direction, because somebody wants to set up a duplex, if they get grouped up into the same category as quadplex, there's going to be a pocket of, it's going to be a stern pocket of resistance in a lot of neighborhoods. So, and if you do go to the quadplex, you've almost got to come back and revisit the mobile home park, because if you're going to allow that kind of concentration, which quadplex, you're going to have probably at least 8 vehicles and possibly 10 or 11, depending upon the family size. You might as well come back in, because right now you're restricted on the mobile home park. So there's new development of mobile home parks without some really rather strenuous guidelines.
But don't we just have an option to go ahead and do the duplex piece of it and then revisit the ordinance later?
Well, I tell you.
Or not.
Yeah.
I met with the Builders Association twice now about this, and it was in conjunction with looking at workforce housing. How can we work together to provide more workforce housing? And these were some of the things they came up with, and they said, instead of piecemealing this, can we go ahead and put everything we want together and do one ordinance change in regards to duplex, triplex,
Well, the
quadplex?
acreage changes too.
And that was my suggestion and reason is to put it off, is to bundle us all up. Y'all need to let this land sort of slide on for a time. It's
I don't
constantly
disagree with
evolving.
that.
Every 4 or 5 months, we're coming back in and revisiting this thing for one reason or another. It needs to lie dormant. But there's some suggestions there. I just think that if you're going to put quadplexes, triplexes, and duplexes, I'd have separate districts, because if I would want to go in and build duplexes, I would not want my neighbor thinking I could do quadplexes and then really being vehemently, adamantly opposed to it. And when the duplex very well may have been a proper category for the uses that's being in place there. And it doesn't say you can't do them, it just you create a separate district.
Because there are different minimums and different rules, certainly.
What I would say is, what I would suggest would be we go ahead and table it. I would like for us to do one comprehensive thing rather than piecemealing. That'll give us another month. They've weighed in on what they're interested in. We might even want to consider a special call meeting maybe a week before the next regular meeting to discuss just this and get on board with this before our regular meeting.
It's possible. So, we're doing first reader. Did we have a public hearing scheduled?
We do, and we'll have to have that, but we'll just tell the folks that we're going to push it back again.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could say something about this, and Karen and I were having a discussion this past month. I'm real concerned about this as far as our infrastructure, our roadway infrastructure. She actually knows of one situation where a large piece of property could be subdivided in such a way to where every lot fronts on a single lane county gravel road, and they would actually be coming and applying for individual driveways in a very dense area, in a small area. And this is one of the things that concerns me a little bit about what David is talking about, in that we keep revisiting this land use ordinance. Jolene, we were having a discussion before the meeting where we know, she knows, I know, Gary knows of a situation right now where there is a old defunct subdivision that the property is still being transferred and sold. And so as this happens, greater demands are put on our road infrastructure. And there's nothing in the ordinance that would protect the county against something like this happening. And I see it coming. If we don't protect ourselves today, 5 years from now, we'll be sorry.
Jim, you want the good news or the bad news?
Give me the good news first.
Okay, there is no good news, I lied.
I don't want the bad news.
Bad news is you've just earned yourself a command performance at the special call meeting.
No. What I really think is that we ought to think about this and be sure that when we do whatever is done, is that we build in some protections for the county.
Joey, did you want to say something?
I'd love to comment on that, but I'm going to save that for later. But will we be able to see the changes by the Builders Association soon?
Yes. Yes, I'm happy to go ahead and Get you a copy of that.
Because that, I'll wait and read what theirs are before I go through.
They've not been incorporated into the draft ordinance here that you picked up the other day when you were in the office. I think for your purposes and review, it probably would be if you could share the email. But it would just then point you directly to their recommendations. And I'm not evaluating recommendations, I'm just suggesting that you don't want to group the duplex up with quadplex, because that makes that duplex, that's sometimes a valid use of land. And those neighbors would be vehemently opposed if they were concerned that it could be, in fact, even though you go in saying duplex, we all know that it can change to a quadplex if it's an approved permitted structure. So that's the reason I was just suggesting different districts.
Joanne, I'll get you a copy of that, with those suggestions, and if anybody else wants it, just let me know and I'll get it to you. Okay, discussion, possible action of changing the Keep Gilmer Beautiful Committee to the Keep Gilmer Beautiful Board. This is a request from the Keep Gilmer Beautiful Committee. They are pursuing membership in the Keep America Beautiful Board. And there's a number of requirements that they have to meet in order to be affiliated with them as a national association. And one of the things that I was told is that it would be easier if they were a board rather than a committee. I don't know why. But I said that I would bring this to y'all and see what it would take and if there were any objections. Yes, sir.
Open my mouth again.
Yes, sir.
The only thing I see is that when we're talking about joining the national or a state or something else, we're inviting somebody else in to make decisions first. That's my take on it. I don't want nobody else to have no say what we do with keeping Gilmer County beautiful. I don't want it.
Yes, sir.
Nancy Pelosi, tell me what I got to do.
Well, we're in agreement there. Jim, do you know what the reason?
Well, the discussions that they had at the last meeting is there, and I wasn't aware that they were ready to actually request of the Board of Commissioners. They are looking at some of the other similar type organizations across the state and across the country. And they're talking about doing a 501c3, which, my advice to them when they were talking about that is, hey, you better be sure that if what you want is going to be conducive with what your job is. But that's the only thing. I'm not really sure, Charlie, that they're ready yet to be a board.
I'm fine with tabling this and see if.
Well, I suggested, and I'm not sure that I suggested that they consult with the county attorney. Hadn't heard anything.
Why don't we table this tomorrow and we just tell them before we put it back on the agenda, please talk.
Does it get us any money?
I'm sorry.
Does it get us any money?
Not that I'm aware of. In fact, it may actually cost.
Yeah, right, see, so.
For them to have some security.
I was waiting to hear the membership speak, so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, it'll cost us to join, yeah. The strings.
Okay. Adopting the first reader to the article titled Board of Commissioners of Gilmer County Code. Carmen.
With the dates as we discussed.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's any changes
I have no changes.
there.
What is this, Mr. Chairman?
This is the post commissioner's pay.
And it's under what called the Gilmer County Code?
Yeah, this is actually described as adopting the first reader to the article titled Board of Commissioners of the Gilmer County Code.
It's actually part of the charter, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it's been advertised, it was in the newspaper, it's published and everything. It's the, section 3, the compensation and expenses of Board of Commissioners.
All right, when's the public hearing?
Tomorrow at 4.
Yeah, it's gonna be also, okay.
Yes.
At what time? Oh, it's
4.
Okay. Now, we're about to start into the zonings. I would suggest before we get into all that, that we take about a 10-minute break.
Boy, Sam, you get skipped over there.
Looks like
I
it.
think we're gonna.
Oh, wait just a minute.
Number 8. Number 8,
Don't let her off the hook.
Were we gonna table that?
No, the reason she was skipped over is because I have a note on here that we're gonna table
It
that.
is going to be tabled.
But I should have mentioned that for various
Why
reasons
you go to
that will be suggested.
We'll just get out of here quicker.
Sandy has so little on the agenda and there's skip.
There are questions
Okay.
that really we need for Andrew to answer in terms of the bond refunding, so that we will know whether we're going to look for taxable or non-taxable.
Okay.
So because of that, we'll suggest tabling this.
And
And we don't need to have it in place right away anyway, so.
And I made phone calls yesterday to make sure that nothing would change on the bids.
Now, with that in mind, and because I'm relatively desperate, I will suggest a 10-minute break.
Yeah. First come, first served. Charlie, go ahead, please. Thank you for the start.
I think we'll probably need-
There you go. Yes, I see it. I see it.
Okay.
I saw it.
More than that allocated.
The next item that we've got
Hello, John.
How are you, sir?
is going to be a final decision by the Gilmer County Board of Commissioners. It's a rezoning request for Michelle Raphael. A1 agricultural, A1 agricultural conditional use. This is a request for a farm winery, tasting room, and a wedding and other venue. Do you have anybody here to speak to that one?
She does that.
Okay, she
I thought
sent out.
I thought we're not having comments.
Oh, okay. Well, they're just here, just so you have the meeting, in case you had a question.
Okay.
Was Michelle here?
I keep forgetting we're not supposed to do that.
That she didn't speak.
I do have a question.
Are you
Yeah.
with her?
Yeah,
Okay, I'd like to meet you guys if,
sure,
but
absolutely.
it's hard to show. I'm a neighbor,
Okay.
so. We don't need to do that now, but. I was trying to introduce yourself.
It's not.
Okay,
When this gets approved or disapproved, we're really voting on the vineyard. We're not automatically
Commission
approving
did
the tasting room or a wedding events venue.
Yes,
actually, we are.
Because it's.
It is already
There you go.
A1. What's before you today is the conditional use of a farm winery, tasting room, and wedding events.
The
All
planning
rolled
commission,
into one.
They ruled in two different motions. They ruled on the farm winery and then they ruled on the wedding and event,
See, I-
or in reverse.
I hate to say
They
this,
two
but
separate.
I wondered, I didn't ask and I failed to find the minutes. for the
I think
planning
there is
commission.
the back of the last,
Is it in the back of the last?
the back of the last request here, what
Okay.
has,
Remember if I sent them
So
that?
that's what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, that, I may not have gotten it, because it took us a little time to get them done, so I may not have gotten those done in time to get them to them. But
Did you
the,
get those to them?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's draft form. But what the planning commission did on this one is they ruled in two motions. One for the wedding and events venue, and then one for the farm winery tasting room.
So the wedding and events venue is a large venue then?
Large venue. They have a large piece of property, and that they want to be able to accommodate large wedding and events.
Small, you don't have to
That's correct.
go over.
Yeah, it just,
But I just wanted that clarification.
Look at the back of tab 14.
Yeah, I did, and I'm not, it's been a few days, I'm flexed since.
Right after the memo she put out.
If it's there, I'll review it before tomorrow.
Yes. Well, let's make sure it's what you got in mind.
It's right. Well, that's for the driveway that's on the house.
I don't see it.
There's not one there.
I haven't got there yet, but I don't see it.
This is what I'm looking at. Y'all have that?
No,
I know. There's two
I don't have
I'm
it.
special.
I don't have it.
Okay, we'll get you this.
Okay.
Yeah, if you would.
Yeah, I don't have it. Maybe it's under a different tab. I don't remember seeing it at all.
Show it to Karen, make sure we're talking about the right thing.
I'm sure that looks
But
like.
they look like
that
the
looks
minutes
that's
to
what
me.
it is,
Yeah.
yes, Charlie.
January 17th, yeah, that is the right one.
Okay, that's all I got on that.
David, do you have it?
Okay,
I
we
don't
all
have
have.
a copy of it.
Okay, that'll give you all an opportunity to look it over before tomorrow. But now while she's doing that, Karen, you were saying that there were two separate votes on that?
Yeah, they chose to vote separate for each conditional use.
And what was the vote?
Unanimous on the wedding and events and 4 out of 5 on the tasting room.
Okay.
4 out of 5 on the what?
The tasting.
Tasting room.
Standard procedure, right?
Were there people there to?
There were people there to ask questions, not necessarily to complain or oppose. They just had asked questions about the driveway, the location of the vineyard, the location of the tasting room. And Ms. Raffaelli answered all of those questions, and everything was clearer to the people that were there asking the questions when she finished, addressing the questions. And so
What kind of questions?
like where they would come in off of Old Flat Branch to enter into the property for the winery and the tasting room, and then where they intended to locate the tasting room, as opposed to the grapevines, I think, and then where would the wedding and events occur, what part of the property, and she answered all those questions.
Okay, it looked to me like that would have been Cinnamon Lane, is that?
Well, that's the address that's used for the old home place that's on the property. I believe they're going to build a new home, and it will be addressed off of Old Flat Branch.
Is it not Old Flat Branch, it's Flat Branch, isn't it? Is it Old Flat Branch? I met you all right there.
Yes.
It's a beautiful piece of property and will most definitely be better served with the access off of Old Flat Branch rather than Cinnamon Lane. And I hope that's still you folks' plan.
Yes, 100%.
Right. And plenty of site visibility in both directions, plus they're gonna they propose to make some improvements to our road right-of-way clearing there to better enhance site visibility, so.
What about the property owners on that side? Are they okay with the new road there?
Well, what I was looking at, Charlie, is the actual proposed driveway. And, I met them out there, saw the piece of property. It's a beautiful piece of property. And will work very well, as far as Old Flat Branch is concerned with the in and out traffic. Much more so than Cinnamon.
And the Oak Leaf that goes off to the right, I think the folks were a little concerned as to where the driveway would come in, if it would interfere with their road. It won't.
Okay. What
May I
about,
comment? There's already an existing road there that goes through my property. So the road is already there. It isn't, would not be cutting in a brand new road. It's
Okay.
already established.
what are we talking about in terms of the number of people that would be at an event or something?
Well, the cutoff is the 50 vehicles, and I think it's just a safety precaution in case they do have large events, because they do have room for them. And, you know, it's not gonna be something, I would imagine that's every event will be large, but probably have a lot of them that would not even need the conditional use. But just to cover themselves in case they have a wedding that 200 or 300 people come to, they need to have that conditional use to accommodate that.
So is that what we're talking about for a large event would be 200 or 300?
Yeah, probably. I mean, do you ever anticipate over 300?
So far in advance, I don't know the answer to that as of now.
But there's no maximum
No.
on the large. So
No.
it-
Well, that's the concern about approval for large.
But their property has a good bit of wooded space, and if they were to get larger than that, then there would be a need for creating parking. And, you know, depending on what their priorities are, their thought process on that, they may not be willing to do that. They may not be willing to accommodate an event that's going to require them to do all that work to park it.
Okay. Are there any other questions on this?
I could not.
Well, David has advised that comments from other than the commissioners has to be done in the planning and zoning. We always used to take comments here, but legally it should be in the planning and zoning.
It should be in that public hearing aspect when the public hearing is. And that's not to say that when this meeting is ended, you can't call your respective commissioners and talk to them individually. It's just holding that conversation at this point in time would not be, they don't need to be doing that. They don't need to be reconducting the public hearing.
Just give me a call and we'll talk about it.
Charlie, do we need to be, as commissioner, do we need to be consistent in how we specify the conditions, particularly for the wedding venue piece of it? We took some special actions on the first one we did, I think, and then I don't know whether we did on some others or not. Do we need to continue to be consistent on?
I think we need to be as consistent as we can, given the, while we recognize that each situation is unique.
Yes, case by case.
Case by case, so that in similar situations, we should be consistent. If there's a difference between them, we need to take that into
Yeah, I don't know, given the size of this, I'm not sure whether it requires that. But the first one we did limit it to restricted to prohibit fireworks at the wedding venue.
Yeah.
That was the one, that was the one restriction we put on it.
Yeah.
Primarily,
Don't let fireworks.
yeah, primarily for the neighborhood that it was in, or the community.
Yeah, but it was ours.
Yeah.
Suggestion.
Yeah. I didn't know whether we needed to follow that same thought.
Well, I think from that perspective, probably so. I think the uniqueness, if there is any, location.
If we're not consistent, then we kind of get caught in this where we pick it and choose it.
If anybody challenges us, we have to either be able to show that we were consistent or that their reasons was a difference in the request.
I agree.
The big thing that y'all specifically endorsed on that one was the use of fireworks. And you can make that change in your ordinance itself, but just limit the days as long as they can do with fireworks. And that would make it a blanket, you wouldn't have to remember to.
That'd be good.
I think somewhere down the road,
That'd be good.
Ordinance that.
Well, no, when y'all do this, duplex, we can add it in there on that.
Oh, okay.
Do all, do all this.
That would be easy. Okay.
This is.
That's history that you probably didn't ever get involved in.
hear of that? Maybe-
Firework?
Yeah.
I heard you talk about, but I don't know.
One of the first applicants for the wedding venue, that was one of the conditions and restrictions that the board at that time placed on them, was they could use fireworks on certain days, and other than that, they were prohibited. The concern was those parties that would go into the 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock hour, and all of a sudden you have all these fireworks going on.
Do you allow them
Primarily the
before?
holidays that typically you see fireworks. We're okay with, other than, no. Like I
And
said,
then-
maybe
Karen, does this connect to the mushroom farm?
Yes, it's on the back
So
side.
still good agriculture?
Yes, this right here is the mushroom.
Too didn't thought of it, but I was.
It's on down the road.
Yep.
Any other questions on this one? Okay. The next one is Patrick and Audra Malaguti. R1 residential low density, R1 with conditional use. And as I recall, that one is for a guest home, which would be in the form of an RV. You don't have any.
I don't quite understand how guest room or guest house, guest home, I forget what the correct term is we use in our, what we call it. Do we call it a guest home, or guest house, or a guest?
I think either one.
I guess house.
I'm not sure I understood how
It
RVs
is not,
could
but
be.
it is constituted as a residential space.
I didn't know how we could condition or call a RV a guest house.
Well, we require them, if they want to live in an RV, we require it to be hooked to the approved septic system. And if, if there's nothing else on the property and that's what they want to live in, they can, if there's no covenants or restrictions. And it would be the same with a guest house.
Seems to me we have, did we not turn one of those down at one time when they were gonna put RVs for?
I think those were gonna be for rental.
That was the one out,
Oh, mhm,
that was
yes.
the tiny home.
Yeah, definitely.
Still well.
Situation, yes.
Yeah,
Is
that was
this-
still,
This is on Ferris Home.
But it's 1.1 acres and it already has an existing home, and then before the board is the consideration of a second home.
The conditional use for a guest home, and I advised him because of the size of the property that if he didn't have something in writing from environmental health, that we wouldn't consider it. He did go to
It seems like
environmental
they
health
got
and he got.
that.
so they got two septic systems on 1.1 acres.
Yeah,
And I can't get one septic system on 2 acres on another lot that we've had an argument over. Tell me the logic.
I do not know it. I do not know how that he was able to get that, but he was, and because of that, I accepted his application for the conditional use.
I'm not sure I agree. We also do not allow this to be permanent. Is that correct? How many days can you use?
This actually
guest
would
Yeah.
be permanent if it's approved.
It would be a permanent guest home, but
Yes.
it could not be lived in except for on guest basis. And the ordinance just says occasional use, it doesn't list,
Y'all never police that.
can't list that, and that's the thing.
So we're gonna have a home plus an RV with basically 2 permanent dwellings on 1.18 acres.
If approved, yes, sir.
On a county road that's a 1/10 of a mile long.
You couldn't put a regular house on that 1.18 acres, but we can put an RV.
If it's approved.
Where's the letter from Andrew?
I saw one in there.
I don't think I did.
Somebody's getting a special copy.
Hi, Charlie, what's going on here, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm special.
Let me see, buddy.
Let me see.
I thought I had it in there, I mean, okay.
You know, what I might have seen was just them saying they had it, but they weren't sure.
I don't have it.
I don't have it in here.
So right now, you can have an RV on a piece of property that has septic for unlimited amount of time? I thought there
Yes.
was a time.
No,
There's not.
no, there are a lot of property owners that actually, in fact, do live in their RVs full-time.
No.
Yes, yeah,
Not-
it is out
not-
there, I mean, not in my section of the woods.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to say different. We have not allowed an RV to be used as a permanent residence. In fact, we don't even let them have, you can't get a electric power to that RV.
Can't if you got a different septic?
Until you have a proper septic.
But if you get septic,
If you have
Yeah.
septic,
then you
you
can
can get power and you can
then
live
be
permanently.
in the RV.
That's correct.
And, acre, you have a,
It just depends on the zoning, Colleen. If it's to be split, it has to meet the minimum acreage. If it's a lot of record, it does not. And a lot of record just means that there is a recorded plat with that property on it and the size that it is.
This is an example of potentially a loophole in this scenario because the.
Yes, it is.
I can get the, I thought I had the letter. It may have just been a verbal, or Andrea, but I know there was at least a verbal.
This has no public water or sewer.
No, it is a well septic. I can get her to put it in writing because I know that there's, I know that we're going to, because I talked to her. Because I wouldn't take the application without it. But I'll ask her for something in writing and,
Well, what I saw in there was not the letter from Andrew. It was the comment within the framework of the form. It simply says the Environmental Health Office has pre-approved a septic system for the RV, and AEMC is on board with hooking up electrical. So the actual letter from these folks isn't in there, just the statement that they have that they have approved it.
and I'll ask her for something of what she's requiring of them in order for her to approve this, and then I'll get it to you.
This is on the Tells Creek on the backside, and wasn't that one of the rivers that was feeding into the Coosawhattie that was under that restriction?
No, it wouldn't be Wartown, it's out off.
I'm sorry, Mountain Town.
Two would be Mountain Town.
But it feeds into Coosawhattie. Remember there's a section of the Coosawhattie that's under a restriction right now, that was, it was in the paper about a week or so ago.
Yeah, but that's Coosawhattie now, that's not Mountain Town.
But it was a fecal matter issue, and here you're putting another one in against the creek again. I mean, what's that? Do you remember seeing the article? Yeah.
Well, Ferris Arnold, road or drive is off of 282, a little bitty short gravel road, 1/10 of a mile.
Well, one of these, and I'm gonna have to kind of page through here to see if this was it. One of them specified that the septic system had already been built. That's Malaguti.
I don't remember seeing that, Charlie.
I don't remember what name.
Well,
What is the other house on there? Is that a double wide?
Let's see if I can find the flag, because I've got something.
I think it is.
Building, double wide. It's a double wide.
With a pool? I'm sorry.
It's a double wide with a swimming pool?
I don't know if that's a swimming pool or not, it says.
it's marked pool.
Well, now, wait a minute, you can have
I know
these above-ground pools.
I know.
Maybe what that
The
means.
dadgum thing has got a pool on it, and it's, It doesn't show it as a double wide, but it could be a double
It doesn't
wide.
look like a double
I
wide.
think it does, I think it does show that.
And then there's a trailer, there's a
Now,
mobile
this is
home.
another, this is the only property right here.
This is the
1.18
property.
acres right here.
Okay, and it's already got a 1-2 outbuildings, the double wide, and a pool. And how, what's the acreage? 1.18. That baby is full.
And that's the issue.
Yeah.
I want to see the letter from Andrea.
Okay, I'll get it today and get it emailed to all of you.
Great location for that.
That's it? That doesn't look anything like your site.
Look at
Let me look at
the
that.
map, though.
Yeah, that's much different, Karen, than the site plan.
When I zoomed in, that's the same thing.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
Yeah, but see, that, and there's the concrete drive, whatever, all that, and then there's the building. There may be one of those structures gone.
Yeah, probably a cover.
Concrete driveway.
That's
Concrete
a
driveway.
lot of impervious surfaces already.
Is that an iPhone?
Droid or something, I mean,
No.
Android?
Note 9.
Because you can't pay any attention to the pictures that are on that. But that one's okay.
Barbara,
Okay.
tell you that?
Any other questions for us here on this particular one?
Could I put another double wide on that plan?
Once
Well,
give
you'd
it
have to meet
condition-
setbacks and you'd have to have a conditional use.
Once that's conditional use is granted, I mean, they can do whatever to work with their guest house, and if they decide to move the
Well, do you
RV out.
specify? You
They do.
specify, since it is conditional?
Specify the conditions of the
Recreational
conditional
vehicle
use.
only.
Yeah, but it,
But would we
Good,
care if they
but-
moved out an RV and put in a double wide? I mean, it looks to me like it'd be an improvement.
Oh, absolutely. And when they come to get the permits,
But if that's the plan, maybe, can they do that? And then they're being expected that they can do that, and they can't. I'm not sure they can
I'm not sure it is.
on that size lot.
Well, we'll
You
have to,
couldn't
if it's
without-
approved, well, conditionally, we'll have to specify.
Yeah, you would want to specify
Nothing bigger than
conditions
RV or
because
something.
otherwise, if it's
Yeah.
limitless,
Put
then yes.
conditions on your condition.
Well, that's the reason it's called conditional use.
Wasn't there
You
a
can
song
apply
in the fifties about the condition your condition is in?
That's exactly right. The condition, for the condition I'm in.
Okay. Are there any other questions on this particular one here for now?
No.
And Karen, you're gonna get the actual letters for us.
I'm going to do my level best to have them to you today.
I'm really leaning towards my favor now.
All right, the next one is for Stephen Peters, R1 residential low density to C1 commercial. And as I recall, he wants to make this one, this property more marketable. And also, I think there's some issues with, no, I don't think this was C1. No, this one's just, he wanted to make it more marketable.
Now, if you look at the map, you'll see
It's not good
why.
for anything else.
Yeah.
Right here. Up there's the railroad.
I think it was, what, 8/10 of an acre or something?
Oh, yeah, this is the hole down there.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to put a house on that.
Well, and there's other commercial.
I'm not even sure you can put a
Yeah,
business on.
yeah, all of
Might
that
put a
business
food
behind the
stand.
railroad tracks is commercial zoned.
Okay, do we have questions on that one? Okay. Next one would be for the L.J. Gilmer Water and Sewer Authority. They want to build a water tank, can you believe it?
1.27 acres.
Yeah. Okay.
In the unincorporated part of it.
That's right.
Make sure we know that.
So this will be to build a water tank. I don't have any questions on that. You don't have questions on that? If not, then in line with what we were discussing earlier about doing both of Gary's at one time, Let me see which other one is. 21, oh, I give you word then. This will be to approve the resolution to resubmit for the grant that we actually approved the resolution on last time that was not received. I think they feel there's a pretty good chance they can get it this time. So I'm fine with it myself.
I'm fine, I'm not familiar with this block grant, so I didn't know.
CDBG block
The
grant.
community development block grant is a $750,000 grant. It's mainly geared towards low and moderate income areas. And so what we were doing is going to extend some water out Old Round Top Road in that area. It's we're going to try to use this grant maybe as a first phase of going to the county line out Round Top, out that way. The Water and Sewer Authority will be adding some matching cash and labor, somewhere in the neighborhood of $350,000 to $400,000 worth of in-kind labor and cash, to try to help this along. But that's what the purpose is.
Is that federal money?
There is federal money involved.
It comes through the Department of Housing and Urban Development to DCA.
A lot of hoops you have to jump through.
Yeah. And it commits to everything in the world, but
It's good money.
it's good money.
It's 100% money, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah. It's 100%.
Yeah, I agree. And we've used it before.
Yes, we have.
We have.
I think the city's used it for
Both
beautification,
cities.
sidewalks, and other things too.
Yeah, we've actually done water and sewer projects in both cities and the county over the last 10, 12 years.
So I'm good with both of them.
All right. And going back to number 13. This will be for Lloyd.
Can I quickly ask the, Gary's gone, but is that property already been purchased?
Yes.
It should.
Oh,
It has been for the
yes.
tank.
Oh, you
is
don't
not-
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
They own that now.
You should put a condition on it that he paint that tower, it's really nice like they did in Big.
I think you
It's gonna be kind of great.
We need a big apple painted on it. Like a peach. South there.
Moving right along.
Yes.
Item number 13, for Lori and Gloria Clark. This is another farm winery, wedding venue, all one day, one agricultural.
So we don't have to make this one conditional, do we? It's permitted.
This is just,
It is.
this is the
Well,
rezoning
if we-
This is just the rezoning.
If we approve the
portion.
rezoning to A1,
This is the parcel that's on next
Then the-
week for the conditional use end of this. We had a glitch in the planning and zoning, or the planning commission meeting, and they've got to come back to the board for the conditional use portion of their application.
okay, so all this is
So-
doing
This
is
is
just
simply
Why don't we
rezoning.
just table this and put them together? Go?
No, because this application's proper before you, I don't know if you want to take it.
They and the planning commission unanimously voted to approve this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, your decision on the next aspect may be different than.
Okay. Okay.
So this is really not farm winery or wedding venue,
No.
this is
Not for
just,
this,
our one day one.
Yeah.
just the rezoning. The
Yeah.
next one will be. the
It's misleading in what it
Yeah.
asks for, because it asks for rezoning and conditional use.
Yeah. They did 2 applications,
And we're only voting on one.
only one.
I can tell you that the next phase will be somewhat contentious. Not somewhat, it will be very.
Well, but that weighs on what I want to do here, maybe.
Well,
No? Not really?
Dallas, I mean, even if you decide to move in a different direction on the conditional use,
It does, but
that R1 to A1 is
and there is a roadway on the ground.
it is an application, and it should be recognized for action
Okay.
by y'all. You may not want to make it A1.
Well, that's the point. I may not.
Because
And the reason may not want to make it
No,
agricultural.
I'm less than that.
David, how many acres is that?
It's like 10.39.
They're small.
Stuck in the middle of residential area.
That was my question.
And that's where you should be evaluating this
I'm with you.
on at
I'm with
this
you.
point. Because you're looking strictly from a district change, R1 to A1. So, yes, hammer away at those questions.
I've got the map at the back that you can check the surrounding zones.
Now, do I understand that this is only a portion of this parcel?
The whole parcel.
Uh,
The whole parcel wants to go from R to A.
This is on.
What led you to believe that?
Well, I was looking at the assessor's map, and there was a section cut out.
Yeah, it does go across the road. Part of it goes across Cantrell and on the other side of it.
It's a convoluted parcel
But it's all.
laying on both sides of Cantrell Road.
It's all zoned R1, correct?
Yes.
Was there opposition? There was.
Not for the rezoning.
Not for rezoning,
For the conditional use.
but for rezoning.
If there's a chance that the conditional use is not approved, are they still interested in pursuing the rezoning?
My guess would be yes.
I think you may need to find that out, but y'all need to treat them as two separate applications. And that application is.
Which we didn't do on the earlier one, but that's okay.
It wasn't up to that. It was already zoned back.
Yeah, they were just.
They just needed
They
a
were just
conditional
doing
use.
the conditional use. Okay, I got it.
Okay. Any other,
I'll look at the minutes. Think about it.
okay, the
Do
next
they,
one.
I'm sorry, do they own any of that property near there,
Any other property? No.
adjacent to that,
Not to my
that
knowledge.
they would combine?
Yeah, no, I think they probably would if there was any available, but there's not any that's available.
This is not, okay, it wasn't in conservation. Okay.
Next one is William F. Dillard, from residential low density to C1 commercial. On this one, a good bit of it, or some of it at least, is to cure some encroachments. But the request is to rezone the entire lot and not just that area necessary to cure the
No,
encroachments.
I'm sorry, it's
Well,
just a portion.
Let me look and see here.
0.32 acre portion.
Hang on.
Say again?
0.32 acres is what's portion of the 5.32 that needs to be rezoned. Was when they've done the plat division for this, I can show you. I will look at this, that I have not stamped this plat yet because of the encroachments and the zoning issues.
So
That
this-
shows you a .28 and a .04.
This is not,
Looks like they want to add to their existing commercial track.
You do.
so I can't quite figure from my map what we're doing. That looks,
This right here and this right here, they're adding from to this track. He already owns this, but that's to fix that little encroachment, I guess, or this one right here is to fix the encroachment. And that's to give it a little bit more side distance right there. And that'll be the .32 acres.
Yeah, we did a, see, this little .4 is like, you're making a straight line down through here. The tax assessors is not exactly right.
so technically, is he taking away from his 5 acres?
Yeah. The
And where is it
.32
going?
is going on this 61.
You have to make a new parcel then.
Yeah,
Or
it
two
would-
new parcels.
Well, no, it'll be combined into
It's got
this.
that little bit that connects it.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, I don't care, but that's a messy.
See this
Okay,
line through
that's
here,
really
it
nice.
doesn't get affected, it's just.
Can you see now,
Mhm.
in his letter, it says it's my intent to deed the .32 acres, .04 acres, and .28 acre portion of my parcel to number 40.
Mhm. Yeah,
So it's
that's,
not just the .32.
no, that .28 and .04 is the combination to make the
So
.32.
you're telling me.
Oh, I see what you're saying, I took that as three separate.
He's rezoning
Because they're,
and selling,
well, it's his nephew, so he's just deeding it over to.
deeding it to him. So this will be combined with that?
Yeah, once approved, I'll stamp it
Will
off
be
on that
combined with
plat, and then it'll go with that block that's like,
And you can
Okay,
condition your
okay.
approval on it being combined, that's not.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's all we need.
and I've got a statement on the plat that says it's to be combined.
That makes sense. So we're taking this piece and that little piece and combining it. He'll combine it with that. It's deeded to them.
Yes.
Okay. I see what he's doing now. That it was not clear with this picture, but that makes sense.
Okay, the thing I guess that was confusing me is under property value. The statement is this will increase the value of the property. It is to be going to and will cure a few encroachments. I took that as to be two separate items. It'll increase the value of the property and it'll fix the encroachments, which would only be accurate if the entire thing was in. But if it's just .32, that's fine.
Yeah, that's the way I see it too, Charlie.
Okay. So we are talking
I
about
will-
.32.
.32.
I would agree with that on the condition that it be combined with the,
Oh, yeah,
Correct.
there's no other option.
yeah.
I mean, there is no minimum requirement on acreage, but I wouldn't stamp that plat
No.
unless there was a clause in there to combine them.
What I understand, he wrote that this is 100% ownership, but I thought this was a 1/3 divided ownership. Where did I get that?
There is a statement in there that says as 1/3 owner under such and such.
So I can't have one owner selling his third undivided. Or even, where did I find that?
I don't know, because I think that there is but one owner. That
I'm
would be
sure I
the
saw
difference.
that somewhere. I made a note of
I
that.
saw it too.
Okay.
This one.
It's there somewhere.
Yeah, but I don't remember when I saw it.
Here we go. Exhibit A, about the third page from the back. My undivided 1/3 interest in and to all that tract of parcel of land. Second section contains 1/2 acre.
Yeah, there it is.
But that was when his brother was living. That's an old deed. Philip Dillard was his brother, he's deceased.
Well, then this wouldn't be appropriate to put into this package, would it?
Well, it had to have the deed for the property, showing ownership, and that was Phil giving it to Bill.
Okay.
Say again?
Philip deeded it to Bill, William F.
Okay, so Philip had 1/3 interest, deeded it to Bill, which gave Bill 100%.
Yep. Well, unless
No, he
Carl
would have
Craig
already
was
had to
dead.
have had 2/3.
Did you already have?
Because he's saying now that he has 100%.
And he does.
Okay, as long as he's got 100%.
Unless Margaret also deeded her 1/3 along with Phil to Bill.
I don't know where the other third went.
Don't know either.
Where did the other
Might have
third
been
go?
Carl Crago, who has also passed away, so.
Okay, so he owns 100%.
It is Carl Crago, Phil Dillard, and William F. The first two have passed away. Bill is the only one left, 100%.
I'm okay.
All right, next item. Discussion and possible action on budget amendment for UPS system 3911. This is another one of those things that we can do with the general budget amendment in March, but I want to bring it to your attention. In 2018, we budgeted in the capital budget $60,000 to replace the UPS system in 911. It wasn't actually replaced in 18, so we brought that $60,000 forward to 19. In speaking with Frank out at 911 now, it looks like $60,000, their original $60,000 estimate that they got did not, for whatever reason, include labor. So now we're looking at more like $80,000. We've got 60 allocated from 18. We need to have a budget amendment to allocate the remainder, and I put in here to 85,000 just because, you know, they're not really that confident at this point. I'd rather not have to come back for a second budget. We do need a new UPS system in 911. The last thing in the world that we need would be for a power failure in the UPS not to work properly and somebody get injured or pay the price for that. So what the request will be to take the existing 60,000 and add another 25 to it to completely replace the UPS system in 911.
But we did move that 60,000 over, I didn't remember that in there, but.
We don't actually have the list yet of what's been moved over, but we asked Sandy to go ahead and move everything that was still pending from 18 would be moved over to 19, so that's part of it.
Okay.
Any projects, any 18 projects that went out.
Right, yeah, okay, so that,
But so far in 19, it's been spent with auditors and so forth. And that hasn't been priority.
any particular reason they didn't get that done last year? I don't know that it matters, but.
I'm not aware of any particular reason they did that last year. But when they did decide to go ahead and do it, then they got to go well.
Yeah. It is what it is. Yeah.
Okay, next item is River Outfitters license for Kusawati River Resort. Everything's in order.
This is the one that's in May. So you can just contact me and tell me that in May, renew it for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, see what they can do with that.
Okay.
Any questions?
I have to ask that same question, what kind of, where is this parcel line located in what zoning?
What's that, the River Resort thing?
That'll be all
Kusawati.
commercial, it's all over there.
It's all private property within the confines of the Kusawati River Resort. And honestly, it was never, I think, the intention when this was being put together, that these folks be included. But what happened was, once it was approved in final language, we got to looking, and lo and behold, the way it was written up, they were included. I'll tell you, I am probably at some time during the course of this year going to ask that be revised such that if the put-in point is private property and the takeout point is private property, and everywhere in between is private property, that they not be subject to this permitting. May or may not go anywhere, but it's just not right. When everything they have from start to finish is private property for us to say that they have to have a permit.
Well, and I don't know, how did we word that? Did we word that with including?
It's in how we define.
Kusawati corridor or?
No, it's in how we define a commercial outfitter. That definition was such that.
Forced out.
That it included.
Yeah.
And when we were discussing putting this together, my recollection is it was never any of our intention to have to, for Kusawati to have to do this. Our interest was people who were using public takeouts. And the cost that it takes to maintain that, and to improve it and so forth. These folks don't do that.
It's sort of like airports. Sometimes there's airports that are private owned but public use. This is public use. This is not exclusive to Kusawati property owners.
No, people can come in and do it.
It is public use, so I have to think about it, whether it really would have applied or not. But I hear what you're saying.
Think about it, but we have no interest in it in terms of, they're not using, we're not maintaining anything, they're not using the public, takeout.
I agree.
And if somebody has an accident on there, it's not gonna be a county that's.
It's not use of county assets.
So. Okay.
But it is a commercial business. And in that sense, they have a business license.
And it is.
Probably operated out of a residential.
No, it's
piece
operated
of
out of that.
Operated out of the
It's out of
general store, I
commercial.
believe.
It's still- And it is like commercial.
Okay, okay. You're right, Charlie.
But that's for another day. That's just. Okay. Appointment of 5 members to the Gilmer County Land Conservation Advisory Board. I hope to have 5 names for you tomorrow night. We'll see. So we were going to reconstitute that board.
Yeah, this is really important because the money's now starting to come in, and it's estimated to be a considerable amount of money. I know it's into multi-millions as far as what the state's expected. Pauline and I've had some discussions on it, and you know, David Speaker Ralston has the ability to appoint 2 people to the state committee, and he has in fact done so.
Well, then we will appoint 5 people tomorrow night. If y'all have any candidates, you know, anybody, let me know. Make sure they're willing to serve. We'll have 5 names. I mean, I got 5 names now, I don't have 5 guesses to it.
Is that beneficial for commissioners, board of commissioners to be on there, or no?
It could be. It actually, I mean, it's just driven in the fact that, hey, there's money out here, and then, you know, the conservation is the theme of this county, and I mean, there's a lot of property that could be available that could be purchased for recreational activities and stuff. So if you want, I guess if you ask me the question, you're maybe thinking that maybe you want to serve on that?
What powers does this?
You have it in if you want it.
This is
Well, I'd like for our, sorry, to us to have an ear or an input.
This is an advisory board, so I assume there's no power to acquire property.
There's no power, really, this is a voice for this county, for Gilmer County, with those respective individuals at the state level.
Right.
And saying, hey, listen, we see that y'all got this, and we'd like to step in line. Just sort of like the bridge projects, you know, everybody's got a project all across the state, and we kind of want to see a way to get it pushed up to the top.
Yes.
Charlie, the only comment I'll make, and I'm in agreement with doing this.
Now, y'all are done.
No, we haven't appointed a member.
Right.
We've made the board, we've created the board, I agree, but we haven't appointed members. And there has been a case in the past, not to be mentioned, whereupon we as a board of commissioners appointed members, and it turns out that, in my opinion, I would not have appointed one of those people, and I've been aware of that soon enough to kind of vet or investigate that person or have a resume or something. That I don't like doing that. I'm willing to let you do that work, but I really want to feel.
Ideally, these will be people that you know.
Yeah, I really, and in that particular case, it was someone I did not know back in the past. So I only want to be sure we don't appoint someone that.
Remember, they serve at will too. So
I know.
After somebody gets in.
In this case, yes. In some of them, it was a term.
Oh, okay.
Well, we only have to worry about 4 because now we got Carlene.
Yeah, we're living it. Well, I bring that up because I want to make sure. No. Okay. Let us know tonight, tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Discussion and possible action of the lease of County Animal Shelter. These are folks that have done a lot of good in the past for the animal shelter and taking animals out and arranging adoptions and so forth for them. As the animal shelter has improved their ability to find homes for the animals, most particularly with transports to the rescue agencies up north, that has become less and less of their objective, so they have shifted their attention now to providing free and very low cost certificates for spay and neuter to people, kind of attack the problem at the source, and so there's just not so many homeless animals around. What they have asked is that if they will buy a storage building very much like the one that's out at the animal shelter now, off on the across the parking lot there, if we would allow them to place that next to the other storage building there on that property, it would be a lease arrangement very much like what we have with Bread and Bowl with the sign. We would simply say, yeah, for they were proposing $120 a year. What they pay is not relevant. The idea is that we just tell them, you know, you can stick a storage building next to the other storage building and place your equipment that you have for Friends of Gilmer Animal Shelter in there. I don't see a downside to it. It's a huge area over there.
What sort of organization is Friends of Gilmer County Animal Shelter? Are they a 501c3 or something? We need an official organization to lease to, or lease from.
I'll verify that.
And then just to see
They are.
what.
Although I would
Hearing
think we
they are,
could
I'm
lease
not
anybody.
sure.
I'm almost 99% positive they are 501c3. I just had a meeting with them, that's the only reason I know.
As long as it's a defined organization, then we can do a lease, that's all I'm saying.
I'll verify.
I'm pretty sure they are because they've set up their own, like, accounts and funding, and it is, I think, a tax write-off if you do donations to them, because there was a conversation about that.
Probably are.
Donations and they're tax deductible.
Yeah,
Probably are.
so they are a
It's a
501c3.
good organization.
Yeah, no question, not trying
If we
to.
can help them out this way, that'd be good.
Yeah,
But I'll verify that.
that's all we need, and then I'm good.
Okay. Anything else on that? Appointment of a member to the Airport Advisory Board. John Walker has been suggested as the person to appoint. I don't have any other candidates.
John is a good guy. He's deputy commander of the cadets. He was at the last meeting and interviewed. And what the Airport Advisory Board has tried to do is keep a link to the Civil Air Patrol there. And John and his wife both are real active, and so that's, you have your recommendation.
Sounds good to me.
And that's one of those that serve at our.
Serve at your pleasure. No specified term.
No, I'm good with that.
Appointment of 2 members to the Keep Gilmer Beautiful Committee. We have 2 resignations, which is Nancy Martin and Betsy Shepard. And the request from them for replacement is Jim Harris and Karen Fatemi.
Good folks, active in the Adopt a Road program and recycling. And I think the recommendation is to serve the unexpired term, Charlie, is that correct?
It would have to be,
Yeah, of the 2
remaining time of the term.
Yeah.
And the suggestion, the recommendation is that Jim Harris would replace Nancy Barton and serve the rest of her term.
Right.
And then Karen Vitale would replace Betsy Shepard and serve the remainder of her term.
I'm good.
All right, we are at citizens wishing to speak. Anybody that would like to speak on the issue?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
first of all, could somebody email me that ordinance there labeled Gilmer Commissioners?
I'll give you a hard copy if you want it. Right now.
Cut it right here if you want it.
Yeah, I just want to take it and read it today.
Yeah.
As far as the fire, EMS, and so forth, you know, I wish Mr. Pritchett well in his future endeavors and what he is going on to do. And there's been some very good things that have taken place in the last 8 years that I know Mr. Pritchett. But I just want to ask this group, first of all, I think you know already the broken record is I'd like to $500,000 off our property tax. And I know once you do your studies, I think you have it. Now that's me. I think you have it in fire and rescue. A couple of things. One, I don't know if it's necessary, but I'm just going to ask. Based on how many years a certain individual has been in charge, I don't know when Mr. Pritchett took control of fire and rescue, but I know now it's in the 9th year that I know, because 4 years with Chairman Sanford is it 12 years, right? I don't know that it's not appropriate with all the equipment and everything that we're discussing now, a full inventory, a full tangible inventory to be done. Maybe even a financial audit. I mean, most budgets this large, before you split them or turn them over to somebody else, a lot of people coming in would ask for that audit. Now, I do know there's an audit of that department every year among the general audit for the entire county. I do understand that. So I don't know if it's appropriate. I just think after 12 years, an individual audit, bringing an inventory and so forth. Another thing I would like to ask all of you to be patient. I know the charter, I think you have 90 days to make decisions on who's going to run this department. I say this all due respect. I would hope that now it could come back and be treated as the department that you run, not the department that the commission accepts suggestions, the department you run. You're the CEO of the county, okay, and you have the day-to-day authority to do what you did last night. So I would hope that now maybe some of the ways things were done in the past, that you would change that, maybe look at a total review of this department. This is the largest dollar. But one of the things that concern me is yes, this has a lot of revenue, but government should not be revenue generated. You're not a business. We didn't ask you to be a business. We asked you to take our tax money and provide a certain amount of services that we want in return for the tax money. So I do know that this department has gone through a lot, and I've listened to it with the hospital closing. I'm not trying to start an argument, but the reason for some of the new ambulances and the reason for some of the new ambulances and the personnel was the transfer to Jasper Hospital. Now that could be done privately. We wanted the revenue, and that was Mr. Pritchett. So we treated the hospital, I understand, and when we come back and we, as citizens, and we say, well, why is this up like this? Well, the hospital's gone. But our obligation, I think, is to transfer to the hospital. And then after that, we're basically operating a business transporting to Jasper. Am I correct? That could have been done privately. Not saying I say it's okay, but the transfer to Jasper could have been done under a private contract with an ambulance there.
That it could be done under a private contract. My experience in my conversations with the folks at Piedmont are that the time interval on private and also the level of care available with private transports is not up to what Gilmer County can provide. And to me, I understand that it pays for itself, and you're thinking of that as the business aspect of it. But for me, if I have a Gilmer County citizen to go to be transported to the Jasper, to the Gilmer County Emergency Room, and then find out that they have to be further transported to the hospital there in Jasper, or sometimes it might be, depending on what their condition is, it might be somewhere else. You know, I want us to be there, just right there to take them. I want all the equipment and all the trained people there with them. We provide a level in those transports that I think is not available privately. And so, in my mind, even if it didn't make money, the desirable thing would be to have us transport our people. But the fact that it makes enough to cover the cost just means that, you know, it's a no-brainer to me.
I understand that. I want to be clear that I'm not advocating private company do it. I'm just saying the way that the fire and EMS has turned out. I tell you what, I'm going to say it publicly. We're not Gwinnett County. We put a fire system in place like we're Gwinnett County, and I think you have an opportunity to bring us back to being Gilmer County. Okay, meaning, yes, I'll say, I think there should be several fire stations closed, but there should be some research laid here. When you say which ones, and we start the ISO, if somebody's property insurance goes up because of fire station, $28 a year, all right, whatever, let them take the tax money you're going to give back to us and pay that or whatever. So there's a lot there that needs to be looked at.
The problem is, you know, it's not going to be $28 a year. It's going to be $700, $800.
Let's see that. I mean, I don't know. Did that happen when we had the fire station closed? Do we have the research of how many went down and so forth? I don't know.
It happened for me when our ISO went down. I saved almost $1,000 in my property insurance.
Okay. I'd like to see a couple stations closed. I'd like to see an equipment list publicly that we could see. I'd like to see some of the inventory, publicly. I think that should be stuff that we should be able to see publicly whether we understand it or not. But I think I'd like for you to take the time and go through this department and bring it in. And, you know, and that's just all there is to it. Bring this thing in. I'm sorry, broken record or not, this commission allowed, with due respect, not Commissioner Ferguson, she was not here, this commission allowed, sorry to say it, an individual, we'll leave the name out, to be involved, okay, with the Cherry Log Fire Station. That was involved with the community center down here. We spent $1 million to renovate, and some of the other fire stations. And, you know, I'll tell you what, I'll volunteer. I might get, you know, in trouble in Cherry Log, but don't open it. I live there. I'll take the heat. Don't open the Cherry Log $354,000 fire station. I'm asking you, don't open it. Don't put more equipment in there. Don't put people in there. And please try to get the $500,000. You raised their taxes 3 times. And I know this commission doesn't like to hear when you like to say you re-up the tax or you renew the tax. No, you didn't. You raised it because you have the opportunity for it to go away. So that means you raised it. So the commission raised us $1 million on our property. You can't put that on the last commission. And I understand what it pays for. Then you raised $500,000 on our property. Then you raised our property taxes. You didn't like it, but you have to announce it because the state says if you use the rollback rate that doesn't meet X, you have to. And I know you don't like it called property tax.
You're referencing the fact that if we leave the millage rate where it is, that constitutes an increase, right?
Yep. No, not legal. If it goes away, you have the choice for it to go away. Every year you put it back on the property tax, correct? You have a choice.
Okay, now we're kind of going back and forth here between
the mill.
The mill, yeah.
The rollback.
No, the rollback.
When you're talking about the rollback,
Yeah.
what you're referencing when you say we're raising taxes is the fact that we left the millage rate where it was rather than roll it back. And so that's the tax increase you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But you know, not to go into some discussions that we've had that have caused you, but you know, I'll say, I don't think this commission likes the way the state says it, but because it does actually raise the amount we pay you're required to advertise it like a tax increase, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so when you say leave the millage where it is, the point is this commission, with the exception of Ms. Ferguson, has raised taxes 3 times, okay? Bring the fire department in, take your time, do your due diligence, and turn around the way it operates and see if there's a $500,000 there or somewhere else. And that's all I'm asking over a period of time, okay? Is again, the other thing I would ask is that we reassign the $600,000 that we have in a line item. I just would like to reassign the definition for future park and rec projects instead of pool. I'd like to see this commission redefine it and not lock that under the word pool. So
I don't have an objection to that. I can get you the inventory you're talking about. For the rest of it, we'll have to address, I think, down the road. You and I, of course, disagree on some of that and the reason for it. But I certainly have no objection to reclassifying it from pool to Parks and Rec projects. And as far as the inventory, I can get you that. Now, I would ask that you give me a few days to come up with a good, accurate inventory for you.
No disrespect. I want you to get me an inventory that I can look at, but I don't want you to get me an inventory. I want you to get citizens a clear inventory. Don't take that wrong. And so I'm not asking for 2 days. I'm asking, even if it's 60 days, in your due diligence of going through and looking at everything. The only thing I said earlier on $240,000, which is half of a mil of property tax for 1 year, is if somebody, I don't even know why you don't table that till next month till you can actually bring the data. I don't know why tomorrow night you have to vote on these tanks. And again,
well, no, we did table that.
We won't.
We did table that.
Oh, you said he'd be there tomorrow night to explain, so you did table.
We'll have more conversation on it tomorrow night.
Okay.
But the vote won't take place tomorrow night.
I think the two of you, and I know Ms. Ferguson, you're new as far as this year, and I appreciate this. But I think the two of you, all I've ever asked in the 8 years that I've come to these meetings is base your decision spending tax money on data. That's all I ever asked. And, you know,
But in fairness, you disagree with the data. Huh? In fairness, you disagree with the data that we use.
No.
For instance, the Cherry Lodge Fire Station.
Yes.
Okay, you say base the decision on data. ISO is part of that decision. But let me tell you, you were here when the news first broke that the fire station had to go away.
Yes, yes.
And the first I knew about it, and I think pretty much first everybody knew about it, was when the thing hit where they were being evicted.
Right. Right.
And then we got to looking into the background of it, you know, and these folks had bought the property.
Got it.
2 or 3 years earlier, had been trying to take possession of it since, and essentially had received no response from the county. Not a no, not we're not going to do it, just nothing.
Right back here.
So, you know, the Cherry Lodge Fire Station was going away. Now, I understand that you feel that that's not a significant issue. Certainly not worth building another fire station for. But I got to tell you, I've attended 2 different meetings at the Cherry Lodge clubhouse there, packed. And the people there didn't just want that fire station replaced. They were upset because it couldn't be replaced faster than what it was. You talk about you'll take the heat. You have no idea the heat that came out from Cherry Lodge about that fire station going away. So,
did they ask you for a $354,000 fire station?
They simply asked for another fire station, and fire stations ain't cheap.
Okay, now, Commissioner Parris, in all due respect, you know, for the public here, you and I both know, and for, you know, you can argue this, we had an old truck, okay, and a pretty much rusted out shed that had a wood carved thing that said Cherry Lodge Fire Station over it that was a volunteer place. And the only thing that was in there, was an old water truck. That if they had something fire north of White Path, they'd grab the old fire truck, go to the creek or whatever, the pond up there at Citizens, and reload water for a fire. But we had what equaled to be an old shed with an old truck parked in it that nobody ever really basically went in. And if you looked at your data in 18 years that I've been there, how many times it was actually used in the 18 years. The point being is, all I asked as a citizen of Cherry Log, Georgia, is that you put us back a shed and maybe a truck in it if I'm in the line, if I want a fire station. We did not have to build a $354,000 fire station. It is not a good use of the taxpayers' money up there. And you know, I'm just going to say this, there's other money expenditures that almost happened up there, but luckily they were caught, okay? That means there needs to be a little new process in the county on how we move forward. You want our support on projects. You want our support that you take the additional SPLOST money, okay, and put it towards capital projects as citizens. We're not over the scorch and the burn of 12 years ago, 10 years ago, and as late as 8 years ago, of what happened with our capital project money that came from SPLOST.
Listen, every March, every October, I'm right there with you. I understand. If I had the opportunity to build this courthouse again, it'd be quite different.
I don't want to bring the courthouse up.
Well, but that was the primary part of what you're talking about. But I'll include the rest of it. If I had the opportunity for the fire stations again, if I had the opportunity for the library, you know, not saying that wouldn't be built, I'm saying that it would be different. But those are things that are done. Now, when I talk about using capital money, leftover capital money for equipment, primarily what I'm talking about is the road department.
I agree.
Now, the people, there's two truths here. The first is we can go out and pick a random citizen and say, what do you think about using this money for this, for capital equipment rather than taking a $500,000 off? And universally, I think they would say take the $500,000 off. That same person is going to be calling me next week saying this is ridiculous. Y'all used to be out here twice a year. I haven't seen you all year long. My road's got ruts in it, and I'm tired of this. Well, the two don't go together. You either buy the equipment and you reinforce the road department personnel, which is what we've done, or you say, I'm sorry, I just can't, I know it's been a year, but I can't get out to you for another 6 months. So I think people want what I want. You know, they want their roads maintained, but we don't necessarily want that $500,000 on there. I understand that. You know, it makes sense. And for a lot of counties, you can accommodate that. And the day will come in Gilmer County when we can accommodate it. We're trying to make up for 30 years. And, you know, some of this equipment we replaced was 30 years old. So we're trying to make up for 30 years worth of derelict equipment. And in the road department, when Jim comes to me and says, I need this piece of equipment in the capital budget next year, in the road department, we're not talking $20,000, $30,000. You know, I'm lucky if it's less than $200,000, and that's not for brand new stuff. When you get talking about, you know, bulldozers and this sort of thing, I mean, you're talking some serious money. Asphalt pavers. I want to take that $500,000 off, but I have an obligation to the people of the county to maintain the roads in the way they want them maintained, which is not being done now, but we're striving and we're making progress, and we'll get there. Once we have the road department equipped with reliable equipment that they can use and sufficient quantities of it, you know, we can talk about it. Yeah, let's take that extra $500,000 off. We can do that now, but if we do that now, our project of replacing road equipment primarily, because that's where most of this is going, just comes to a screeching halt. Yes, ma'am.
Well, naturally, everybody wants their taxes lowered, but in the past years, many people that come to these public comment meetings on the tax increase and whatever is either me and Brian, okay? So if you want to do a countywide push, if the people want that $500,000 off, they need to come to that public comment meeting and listen to why it's on there, and they can scream and raise heck that they want it off, and the commission can listen to it. But no one bothers to come, so if they're upset about their taxes, they don't come to anybody to explain why or to find out why it's on there. So it's fine to say what you're saying, and it's all true, but I don't think, I mean, if you ask a person, do you want lower taxes, of course they're going to say yes. But if they understood that the serious situation that we're in, and yes, they put it on our tax bill, but nobody bothers to come to get it off. Nobody even comes to ask questions. I've come with a whole bunch of questions, and I stand up there and talk to myself. I know the answers when I ask them, so I don't even come anymore either. And so I don't think the average person cares, because nobody bothers to come to the meetings.
I think that my experience with one-on-one people has been that certainly, you know, if you ask them, do you want us to lower it? Absolutely they do. You ask me that, I'll say I do. I think people are fairly well pleased with the progress that they see, particularly in the road department. I get callback notices now, you know, so-and-so called. You don't have to call back, just wanted to thank you for the improvements in the roads and so forth. I never used to get anything like that. I think people see the progress that's being made. I think they're happy with it. I know the day will come when they decide that, you know, we're pretty much where we need to be, and now we need to refocus toward lower taxes. And I agree with that. But we're not going to be there for the next several years.
You know what, I went to the podium at the end of the year and I advocated to move $500,000 over to roads. So I want to make sure we're clear that I understand that. I mean, the original function of this commission, which, you know, obviously in the state of Georgia grew into much more, but you know, you used to be called the road commissioner. You weren't the county commissioner, you were originally the road commissioner, and that's your number one function was supposed to be, was, you know, roads and obviously your courthouse. And it has grown into the behemoth that it is today in all counties. So I understand your priority being road commissioners, and I advocated to put another $500,000 there, and I know everybody wants to go to lunch, but I just want to say the fire department is a behemoth. It is a massive behemoth that needs all the time possible to go through and do due diligence and see where cuts can be made. Now, I personally feel there's some big ones that can be made, but when you go through and do the due diligence, then you come back to me, citizen, and if I'm only one, Mr. Blanky, I'm only one, then you come back to me and you say, I'm doing a very good job spending your tax money, and I'm going to say, okay, I see where you are, and I will not harp on the $500,000. Until I see that, I don't feel comfortable. I need to have another $500,000 in my taxes. And if 27,999 people in the county of 28,000 don't come tell you that's okay, but I am.
Okay, and I understand that.
All right?
Well, what you have to understand is when you come to me and say, let's do move $500,000 over to the road department from the fire department.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Maybe I don't have $500,000 I can move out of the fire department over to the road department, you know. I can't shut one down to serve the other.
I have comment, okay?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, because I'm something totally different. However,
Oh, thank you.
at the building authority meeting, I did say I want that $500,000 removed in the near future. So I'm not disagreeing with Mr. Pritchard. I just think we are using it prudently at the moment. I have two questions for Jim. One on the EPD tire and amnesty grant.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have an amnesty day scheduled in 2019?
Yes, we do. I announced it last meeting. It is the 15th. It's for 2 weeks, and it's the 15th through the end of April. It will be for 2 weeks, and it will include Earth Day.
Include what?
Earth Day,
Oh, okay.
you know. But yes.
And my other question is, why do we recycle at all if we still have to pay to haul it off? What difference does it make what bucket it's in?
Well, Julian, I don't know the answer to that. I didn't make that decision. The decision was made by these decision makers prior to, actually, this administration and the previous. Yeah, at the time that the recycling started, is that there was actually a previous commissioner that was looking at the possibility of the county actually becoming involved with the recycling effort. I mean, from the standpoint of hauling it, possibly building a sorting facility and things of that nature. And what has happened with the marketplace, and I'm basing this based on what our vendor tells us, is that there isn't money in recycling today the way that it was 5-10 years ago. But I feel like, and the Keep Gilmer Beautiful Committee feels like, and I think the Board of Commissioners feel like, is that we don't want to just stop the recycling. What we're trying to do is we're trying to change a culture. And, you know, this startup and stop and things of that nature, that doesn't get it done. So we had the benefit of having 3 facilities that had dual compactors. And it was the decision of the previous boards that we would take one of those compactors, we would delegate it or dedicate it to recycling. That was the only way that we were able to get the vendor, whether it's the one that we're using today or a future vendor, to actually haul the recycling material off to a sorting facility and sort.
So it is actually being recycled, we just don't get it.
Oh, sure.
And people in the county save a little bit in that they recycle, they don't pay for the trash.
Yes, Jolene, the Keep Gilmer Beautiful Committee has been twice. They just came back from a tour of the recycling facility that Advanced Disposal is utilizing. So they actually took the environmental club from the high school with them on a field trip to actually see it. But no, it is actually being sorted and recycled. Now, I know where your questions are coming from. There was all kinds of stuff out there. Well, it goes in the same landfill.
Yes, and that's what a lot of people believe.
No. No, never has, never was. That was just the Gilmer County rumor mill, okay? And that's the nicest way I can put it.
There've been a few articles in the paper about that. Yeah, they have done that. And then I think Keep Gilmer Beautiful tries to educate.
Yeah, no, it's actually being recycled, and it gives the citizens a benefit that if they want to do it, they can save themselves a few pennies on the household side, you know. So.
And we have a number of citizens that are very serious about recycling
Oh, yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, we've got some very passionate people about the recycling, yeah.
Anything else under citizens wishing to speak?
Mr. Chairman, there's one other thing, and I'll be brief. I was contacted yesterday by the Board of Education asking for assistance in doing a transportation study for the new school that you had discussions a couple of months ago. I just want to make, because Dallas raised issues and things like that, I want to make you all aware that they're doing their due diligence and they will be doing a transportation study of what that new school would mean to that section of the county, transportation-wise. I just want to let you,
They're
Commissioner.
gonna do it, or they want us, they're requesting?
They're going to do it. They've asked for my assistance.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's all I.
Anything else? Does anybody need an executive session?
We're gonna have one tomorrow night, or not?
We can.
No, I don't, what's in it?
Okay.
You want one tomorrow? I'll let you know tomorrow.
All right. Would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, folks.
Long process.
Right, right. But y'all need, if you got questions, or whatever. Just in general, if you run into any issues or any help or. Hopefully my experience with all of that's what I wanted. I wanted to make sure. You got my card. Just got my cell my future vendors and I can continue my wine stewardship, and that's all.
Well,